Yes, here we go. Are you ready, pilgrims? I am. It's going to be a busy morning here. Busy morning here on the March 3rd edition of Sundays with George Grant. I'm delighted that you're in the audience. Thank you so much for finding some time to spend with us this morning. Let's get right into it. A lot cooking here this morning. We will begin with the buzz. Yeah, that's where we're going to get started. And in there, you will get a reading from the Holy Scripture, and we do have some feedback for you this morning as well. As far as editorials are concerned, we do have two editorials. The Grenada Advocate, which is captioned, Hope for a Peaceful Resolution. Yeah, that's one of a couple of things you're going to be hearing about Venezuela today. Actually, both of our editorials this morning deal with Venezuela, and then on top of that, wait until you hear what's coming a little later on during the program. The editorial from the New Today is captioned, Maduro crossed the line. Yes, sirree. They're not too happy with Mr. Maduro. So those are our two editorials. And then we go into interviews this morning. Not one, not two, but three interviews this morning. First one, I expect in about 45 minutes or so from now, we will have Mr. Brian Grimes. He is the Public Relations Officer of the Public Workers Union, and he is going to pose a challenge to the president of the Public Workers Union in their upcoming election. And our second interview this morning is one which I did a couple of days ago with Mr. Nigel Short. It's a chat with a Grandmaster of chess. How many of you play chess? Well, after you hear this morning, you'll probably be interested in taking up the game, and you'll find out why you just might want to do that. He's a member of the British Empire, and he's the British Grandmaster. And joining him is a gentleman by the name of Terrence Smith, who is affiliated with the newly formed Chess Association here in Grenada. So that's our second interview. And the third one I also did yesterday. It's about a new book by an economist by the name of Laurel Bain. And it's titled Fiscal Policy, the Economy. That, too, is very interesting. Laurel is an economist, and we chatted with her yesterday afternoon. Then our main feature this morning is captioned, Venezuela's Social, Political, and Economic Woes. And guess who's coming to sit right here with us this morning? None other than Venezuela's ambassador to Grenada. He's coming in person, sitting here with us this morning, and we do hope that that's going to be an eye-opener for you. The gentleman's name is Jorge Guerrero Veloz. Okay, and like I said, he's Venezuela's ambassador. So please, stick around for that. He should be here, I would imagine, just after 11 o'clock this morning. Now, let's say good morning. Kashawn Brathwaite out there this morning is saying happy Sunday to you folks. Peter Bishop's in Long Island this morning. Thaddeus Bonaparte, I'm seeing some new names here this morning. Thaddeus Bonaparte is also saying good morning. Anthea Rullo is wishing everybody a happy Sunday. To you too, Anthea. Kipling reminds you, don't forget to share. The more the better. Attaboy, Kipling. Checks in the mail. Fitzroy Adams is also saying good morning to you guys this morning. Carla Ray Briggs. Hey, Carla, it was good seeing you yesterday down at the Gren Save function. And Margaret wearing her dark sunglasses. What are you hiding from, Mags? She's saying good morning. Jackie Williamson's also saying good morning to you folks out there. Now, I'll tell you what. There's one other segment I would really have loved to have included in this morning's lineup. But unfortunately, we are pressed. And I mean, well, you could tell, we are pressed for time this morning. Yesterday afternoon, I went down to the Grenada Trade Center. That's where I saw Carly yesterday and our good friend Sharon. We recorded some video. I did not get to do audio, and the reason for that, there was a lot of noise down there, a lot of noise. You know, I wanted the vendors to describe the various dishes that they had on display and all of that, but there was just too much noise, okay? I did record the video, so you'll get to see all the goodies, but we're not going to do that this morning. We're going to do that one day this coming week, okay? Hey, I'm not promising anything, but maybe even tomorrow morning on one of our Good Day Grenada editions. All right? So that's your lineup for this morning. Let's take a little break here at 7 minutes after the hour. We'll come back with the buzz.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Hey, Lynn.
Hey, neighbor.
Here's the bill I asked you to pay for me.
How did you get your electricity bill to be so low?
For one, we size our transformers just for what we need. And we unplug transformers, chargers, and other devices when they're not in use. We also replaced our light bulbs with LEDs.
They burn less energy, right?
Much less. I even replaced the seal on my refrigerator door to keep the cold air in.
And Grenlec is always advising us not to open the fridge too often.
That's right. And my family washes and irons in bulk.
With fuel prices changing all the time, how do you know if it is working?
We pay attention to the usage history table. Over time, our average usage has decreased.
So while Grenada can't control fuel prices, I can conserve energy and save money.
Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
All right. Now, you guys don't miss a beat, do you? And you've got very good memories. I see here there's a note from Margaret. She's saying, when she took a look at the rundown this morning and didn't see anything about the GrenSave fundraiser yesterday, so she's saying, so where are the pics from yesterday? Well, I just explained. And after she heard me explain, she came back here and she says, oh, okay, saved by the clock. You mentioned food. She's going to hold this against me for the rest of my life. I promised you'd be seeing food this morning. You ain't seeing food this morning, and I don't think Margaret's going to forget that. Then Mary Campbell is saying good morning. Sharon is saying good morning to you folks. And Carla Briggs says it was a great seeing you too, Geo Bear. It was a great outing. She's talking about the fundraiser put on by GrenSave down at the Trade Center yesterday. That was a nice time. They had a lot of people there as well. And Margaret also goes on to say here, you need a unidirectional mic. Margaret, let me tell you, if even I had a unidirectional mic, I don't think it would have done a lot of help. It's kind of noisy down there yesterday. Anyhow, pilgrims, let's get into today's edition of The Buzz on this, the third day of the third month, March. Yes, sir. We begin with an opening scripture And this one, my dear friends, reads as follows. You must be on guard. You will be handed over to the local councils and flogged in the synagogues. On account of me, you will stand before governors and kings as witnesses to them. And the gospel must first be preached to all nations. Whenever you are arrested and brought to trial, do not worry beforehand about what to say. Just say whatever is given to you at the time, for it is not you speaking, but the Holy Spirit. Brother will betray brother to death, and the father his child. Children will rebel against their parents and have them put to death. Everyone will hate you because of me, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. That reading, pilgrims, came to you from the book of Mark, Mark chapter 13, verses 9 to 13. 12 minutes after 9 o'clock, Sunday morning. Feedback section. Earlier this, not this week, because today marks the start of a new week, but this past week, Zola posted a comment on the Grenada Broadcast website, which I want to share with you as part of our feedback. Zola says, how is it that the country of the Netherlands is never blacklisted for money laundering, but the Europeans seem to think every CARICOM nation should be blacklisted? Why is this? As small nations, we must rethink our journey. This way forward is not working for us. Our leaders are being blackmailed by Europe and the LGBT and the homosexual organizations of the West. And at the same time, we are spending more than we have. Therefore, we borrow from the IMF to finance our debts. How long are we going to be burdening the unborn child? We cannot be capitalist without money, and we have no money. So we are left victimized by Tom, Dick, and Harry. Amen. So says Zola. Thank you very much, Zola. Now, let us turn to the contribution this week from Little Angel. Little Angel says, success in any endeavor requires effort and doing whatever it takes to achieve it. It comes with hard work, maneuvering challenges and obstacles, and mustering the necessary courage to move from one stage to another. Success requires commitment, strategy, and creativity. Feelings of discomfort are often common while making efforts to succeed, but it should not deter these efforts. Instead, learning to be comfortable with feeling uncomfortable may prove to be more rewarding. The question is, are individuals willing to do what it takes to succeed? Passion plays a major role in being successful. Passion for what has to be done, and passion in doing it. It provides much needed motivation to move the momentum forward where a lack of interest and diminished energy levels often fail. If more people understood the power of passion, there would be more successful and happy people in the world. And if more people do what is right, then more people would be successful. Many people do not realize how much success is within their reach once they are prepared to go the extra mile to achieve it. But they must be prepared for the task and fight for what they want by being loyal and committed. Anyone who saw and listened to Rachel Roberts recently on SWGG while presenting her case for re-election as president of the Public Workers Union will have to admit that she was passionate and demonstrated a sense of loyalty. Both verbal and nonverbal messages were well conveyed, and probably her biggest hope is for them to be worth the effort. Ms. Roberts seems to be one of many people in the world who can be described as an enlightened individual, possessing a common knowledge that is understood by some, but not by all. Positive reaction to her plea can only come from those who are also enlightened. So says Little Angel in her contribution this week, and that takes us now to 17 and a half minutes after the hour. And by the way, even as I sit here reading this, he has arrived. Mr. Brian Grimes is going to be with us in a few minutes after we get through with the editorials. But first, let me get back here to social media. Lincoln, hello, Lincoln. Lincoln Roberts says a blessed Sunday to everyone in beautiful Grenada and beyond. Much love. Thanks, Lincoln. And Lydia James is also saying good morning. And Renewed Purpose. Renewed Purpose is saying good morning. It is so refreshing to have you on a Sunday morning. Well, thank you very much for your kind words, Renewed Purpose. Where are you? Grenada? Barbados? The U.S.? Canada? England? China? I don't know. Anyhow, then we turn to Rumble Chat for just a minute. Dennis is saying, good morning, Georgian class. It's sunny, but a little windy here in Carriacou. I hope you don't get blown away, Dennis. Kipling says, good morning, Mr. Grant, Chester, and class. God's blessings to all. You know, I sometimes wonder if money could buy common sense. What kind of world would we be living in? Knowing that intelligence is free, and yet so much is lacking, leaves a lot to wonder. So says Kipling Francis out there on Rumble Chat. Pilgrims, as you can tell, Georgie Porgy's really scooting along this morning because it's going to be a busy morning, and I'm so glad that Brian is here a little bit early. He's not supposed to be on until about 9:45, but it looks like we may get him on before that, which is just fine and dandy with me because we got a lot cooking here this morning, a lot of stuff, okay? So let's take another little break here, and we'll come back with the editorials.
Together with you, our customers, we energize our community.
Together with you, we energize our economy.
We are working together to give our nation a better tomorrow.
With you, we energize our future. Together, we energize our nation.
Thank you for partnering with us as we energize our spice side.
Redlick, energizing our Grenada.
Grenadian General Insurance Company, strength and stability. Grenadian General Insurance Company, tell your friends, tell your family. We cover householders comprehensive, motor and even fire too. Contractors all risk burglary. was a liability. And wait, we still have more. Come and find out more what you're waiting for.
We are located on Scott Street, St. George's. For more information, call 440-2434.
Tell everybody.
With free island-wide delivery, Hubbard's Building Supplies and Lumber Departments continue to provide the best quality lumber, steel, tiles, plumbing materials, electrical, and general hardware supplies at competitive prices. We continually consult with builders, homeowners, and contractors to improve product range and services. Enjoy discounts where applicable, including the use of credit and debit cards. At Hubbard's Building Supplies, Grandance, and Lumber Department, Caranage, we offer quality service, affordable prices, giving you the convenient, reliable, free island-wide delivery. Call 440-2087 for all your home improvement and building solutions.
Alrighty, folks, it's now coming up on 22 minutes after the hour. Let's get into this week's editorials, and we begin with the Grenada Advocate, which is captioned, Hope for a Peaceful Resolution. Former Caribbean prime ministers, while calling for the region to be a zone of peace, have made a very plausible suggestion in that aid to Venezuela should be handled through the United Nations and not what is currently being proposed by outside forces which are hostile to Venezuela. Currently, regional governments have given their position on the situation in Venezuela, while calling for the non-interference in the affairs of that country and recommending that diplomacy be given a chance to work in bringing about a peaceful resolution to the crisis. So that when Owen Arthur of Barbados, Lester Bird of Antigua and Barbuda, Dr. Kenny Anthony of St. Lucia, P.J. Patterson of Jamaica, and Saeed Musa of Belize made a case along similar lines as that of governments. They are, in a nutshell, giving legitimacy to the position put forward by the governments. The 5 former prime ministers made it clear that they are concerned about events in Venezuela and expressed great disquiet about the events and the prospects of any action that is inconsistent with the principles of independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of the South American country. In this connection, we are concerned that no action be taken that would jeopardize those fundamental principles, so said the 5 former prime ministers in a letter. From early days, continuing up to the 20th century, the Caribbean has seen a number of conflicts, either as a result of the desire for land by the European powers, boundary disputes by states, and interventions to put down governments which were deemed as socialist, not too friendly with the great power to the north. If the Caribbean is thought to include those Central American and South American states that have long Caribbean coastlines. The point, though, is that whatever may be the origins of these events, they have tended to disrupt people's lives and cause a mass exodus of people to be uprooted from their homelands and migrate to other countries. Such events have brought pain and suffering to people whose only desire is to live in peace. The Caribbean has had a very long and fruitful association with Venezuela by way of trade and financial support, benefiting from its Petro-Caribe dollars, since Venezuela is a non-borrowing member of the Caribbean Development Bank. It is very close to Trinidad and Tobago, shares a border with Guyana, and many of its citizens have close ties with Barbados. It is natural, therefore, for this region to want the best for Venezuela. The Venezuelan crisis has been simmering for years, but has now reached the point of a more intensive campaign for the ouster of the country's president. Over the weekend, there were reports that attempts to get humanitarian supplies across the border of neighboring states and then into Venezuela were blocked. The 5 Caribbean leaders believe that the United Nations should be tasked with getting the supplies into Venezuela, since it is a respected institution with no political axes to grind. This and other initiatives must feature if there is to be a peaceful solution to the situation in Venezuela. Our wish is for the situation there to be settled without creating more problems for the people of that country. That, Pilgrims, is the editorial which appeared in this past week's edition of the Grenada Advocate that was published on Wednesday of this week. 27 minutes after the hour. Yeah, so far, on time. And we're going to get to Brian in just a wee bit, maybe ahead of time. So, let's take another quick break here. Let's see who else is on Facebook this morning. Bernard Gilbert is saying good morning. Ryan Jaban is saying good morning. And Coylan Nash is also with us this morning. Good to see you folks. Thank you so much for joining us. Quick break here, and we'll come back with the editorial from the New Today. Okie dokie, folks. Time now to get into today's edition of the editorial from the New Today. Slightly different from what you just heard from the Grenada Advocate. The New Today says, Maduro crossed the line. The news that a U.S. media outfit was detained in Venezuela on Monday during an interview with the country's President Nicolas Maduro is rather unfortunate. The New Today is categorically stating from the onset that Mr. Maduro has crossed the line where democracy is concerned and should be treated as a leader who is lacking in common decency and is prepared to use repressive means against those who hold differing views. Why would you allow someone into your home and then detain him? Doesn't this remind us of the brutal slaying of the dissident Saudi journalist who entered his country's embassy in Turkey and was murdered minutes later by Saudi intelligence officials? This is what the BBC reported on Monday night about the Caracas incident, and I quote, U.S. broadcaster Univision says its team was briefly detained in the Venezuelan presidential palace where they had been interviewing President Nicolas Maduro. The incident happened after award-winning journalist Jorge Ramos showed Mr. Maduro images of Venezuelans eating from a bin lorry, the network says. The equipment, or their equipment, was confiscated. Venezuela's information minister, Jorge Rodriguez, said the government had welcomed hundreds of journalists, but it did not support cheap shows. Univision, the leading Spanish-language TV network in the United States, said the 6-member crew had been released after almost 3 hours, but that their recording and personal belongings had not been returned. Speaking on Univision, Mr. Ramos said Mr. Maduro had not liked some of the questions about the lack of democracy in Venezuela, torture, political prisoners, and the humanitarian crisis. He, Mr. Maduro, got up after I showed him videos of young people eating out of a bin lorry. Ramos said that what he told Maduro is that millions of Venezuelans and many governments around the world don't consider him a legitimate president, but a dictator. Unquote. The broadcaster said that during their detention, Mr. Ramos and Univision Vice President Maria Martinez were kept for a few minutes in a separate room where the lights were turned off. Mr. Ramos, a veteran Mexican-born American journalist, is known for his confrontational style of questioning. In 2015, he was thrown out of a news conference of then-presidential candidate Donald Trump. The New Today holds the view that it is one thing to throw a journalist out of a press conference, as what Trump did, but it is a vastly different thing to detain a journalist and hold him against his free will for asking uncomfortable questions, as in the case with President Maduro. It should be noted that this incident in Caracas comes on the heels of planned activities by a group of left-wingers in Grenada to mark the 40th anniversary of the so-called glorious Grenada Revolution. Those of us who are old enough will remember the dark and repressive days of curtailment of press freedom and human rights by those same revolutionaries who sought to throw out Western democratic norms and traditions on the island and replace them with a new doctrine called communism/Marxism, with the backing of Cuba and the then Soviet Union. Those were the days when the independent Torchlight newspaper was closed down by the People's Revolutionary Government of the late Maurice Bishop and Bernard Cord. A Methodist minister was deported, and the Catholic Church was infiltrated by a known revolutionary figure under the guise of joining the priesthood. The Grenadian Voice newspaper was born during the revolutionary period, and its founders, the late Leslie Pierre, Lloyd Noel, and former Prime Minister Tillman Thomas, were detained without charge or trial as political prisoners at the Richmond Hill prison until the October 25, 1983, military intervention by U.S. and Caribbean forces to end Grenada's bloody flirtation with a Marxist-Leninist philosophy. The island's best-known journalist internationally, Alistair Hughes, who was associated with the Grenadian Voice, was not detained, but was constantly harassed on a daily basis by armed youngsters who should really still be in school instead of walking around with guns. There was one occasion when a youngster burst into the cable and wireless building on the Carnage where Mr. Hughes had gone to post the stories for those regional and international media houses that he worked for, and was set upon in broad daylight by the thug who was assigned to monitor his activities. The armed young man held on to the back of Mr. Hughes's pants and dragged him out of the cubicle where he was filing his reports and took the script away from him. There are many of us in Grenada who lived through the dark period of human rights abuses and curtailment of press freedom during the 1979-1983 era, and can understand what Maduro is up to in Venezuela. Unfortunately, his small band of backers and admirers in Grenada, including Foreign Minister Peter David and veteran trade unionist Chester Humphrey, are very silent about Monday's event at the palace, in which media people were detained and their equipment and personal belongings confiscated by a repressive regime that has purchased several Caribbean leaders through the Petro-Caribe dollar. The rest of the world cannot stand by idly and not condemn these acts of repression by Maduro and Venezuela. A solution is urgently needed to the current political, economic, and financial crisis in Venezuela to bring back law and order and good governance to the country. Maduro has had enough time to help resolve the situation, and all possibilities should be looked at in order to create a better future and life for the people of Venezuela, who are under the worst hardship in the modern history of this once oil-rich South American republic. Pilgrims, there you have it. That's the editorial which appeared in this past week's edition of The New Today. Well, it's 19 minutes away from the hour. Let me see here. Let me see here. Just get back to Facebook for a minute. Coylin Nash is asking everybody to share the live. Thank you, Coylin. Oswin Lewis is saying good morning. Deveni Leo is saying good morning, SWGG family and class. Another beautiful day on planet Earth. However, bracing for a snowstorm coming our way in a couple of hours in the Big Apple. Yeah, I'll tell you what. Phone Margaret and tell her, get ready. I'm not sure she even knows a snowstorm is coming. She's thinking about the food that we're not showing her here this morning. Murray Jules is saying, that's how dictators rule, my brother. No one has the right to question them. The Caribbean is secretly raising dictators. Murray, you noticed, eh? You noticed. Ryan Jabon says, would Mr. Ramos go to Mr. Putin, Russia, and do the same? Good question, Ryan. It takes two to tango, doesn't it? Yeah? Ernesto Jose saying, good morning, Principal G and Pilgrims. Another episode of Education Sunday. Yeah, Ernesto. Margaret Francis says, I am also old enough to remember Gary doing the same thing to journalists who opposed him too. And the $25,000 fee that he also imposed on newspapers. I didn't know about that one, Max. That too was an attack on the free press. You don't get to cherry pick bad actions based on who you like and dislike. Again, my analysts out there on Facebook, to the point. Cheryl Caliste is saying, hello, Cheryl, good to see you. Peter Bishop is saying, I'm young enough to remember my country media in the pocket of the government. And any section of the press that appears to oppose the government feels the weight of the government. If you do not believe, ask George Grant. Pedro, yeah, Pedro, I have the scars. I have the scars, man. But the truth will come out. It will. Margaret Francis says, of course, I know, and I'm doing a happy dance. You know I love snow. Margaret knows that snow's coming her way in a minute. And finally here, Ernesto says, Mr. G, great video last week. I did enjoy it, although I had to leave, but watched it when I came back. Great job as always. Well, Ernesto, we were hoping to have some more for you this morning, but because of time constraints, we're not going to be able to do it. You will see it sometime during the week on Good Day Grenada. Pilgrims, another break, and we'll come back with Brian.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try their sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank. And there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Hey, Lynn.
Hey, neighbor.
Here's the bill I asked you to pay for me.
How did you get your electricity bill to be so low?
For one, we size our transformers just for what we need. And we unplug transformers, chargers, and other devices when they're not in use. We also replaced our light bulbs with LEDs.
They burn less energy, right?
Much less. I even replaced the seal on my refrigerator door to keep the cold air in.
And Grenlec is always advising us not to open the fridge too often.
That's right. And my family washes and irons in bulk.
With fuel prices changing all the time, how do you know if it is working?
We pay attention to the usage history table. Over time, our average usage has decreased.
So while Grenada can't control fuel prices, I can conserve energy and save money.
Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
Alrighty, folks, just before I say good morning to Brian, there he is. He'll be with you in a heartbeat. Hang on there. Sharon says, I love Margaret Francis. She said exactly what I was about to say. Gary was a dictator. Some people seem to have selective memories. And what she's referring to is a comment which was made by Margaret, which said, I'm old enough to remember Gary doing the same thing to journalists who opposed him too. And the $25,000 fee that he imposed on newspapers. That too was an attack on the free press. You don't get to cherry pick bad actions based on who you like and dislike. Pilgrims, take a look at that, gentlemen. Take a look. What does orange signify, sir?
Good morning.
It's just a good morning.
Yes, a good morning.
Hey, Brian, good to see you, man. A long, long time we haven't seen, but I'm glad that you're able to join us.
Of course. I always enjoy coming on your program. Always enjoy you. Always make me feel comfortable. So every opportunity I get, I'll take it to come and look for you.
Brian, Georgie Porgy may be old, man, but he likes people. He likes people.
Yeah.
Listen, I guess right now, like people involved with a couple of unions that are going to be having elections next week, is it? This week?
Yes. We'll be having our elections on the 8th of March, which is basically next week, Friday.
Right.
Right.
Okay. So tell me, your preoccupation. Last weekend I had a lady here by the name of Rachel Roberts, and I gave her about 20 minutes to, make her case as to why she should be reelected.
Yes.
I want to give you as much time to do the same this morning.
Yes.
Take it away.
Well, I'm very thankful for the opportunity. First off, I'd just like to say good morning to the listening and viewing public, everybody in the diaspora, Grenadians, and particularly to the PW constituents, meaning public officers. So pleasant good morning to everybody. This is a day the Lord has made, and I'm happy for this privileged platform Brother George Grant has given me to explain my position as to why I believe I am the best candidate to run PW for the next 2 years and serve the public officers, right? Some of the things I have to say may be, extremely candid. In no way does it mean that I'm attempting to demean my worthy opponent, Ms. Roberts. But in this dispensation or in this format, it is important to show a separation and as to a reason why I have put myself up for the presidency of PW. It's not just about going for the position for going for the position's sake, but there are reasons behind it and the trajectory of our organization where it's headed. And I believe it's important to save our organization on that downward spiral that it's taken right now. So first off, I'd just like to get right to it in regards to the issues that the workers are concerned with. So I'll just start off with the pension and gratuity issue. There is a lot of propaganda out there, particularly coming from the New Today media, the media house, that newspaper, in regards to pension and gratuity. It's being sold that if there is a change within the leadership of the PW, that people's pension will be negotiated away. Nothing could be further from the truth. People, as we sit here, we have two former attorney generals, Jimmy Bristol, Cajetan Hood, working on a case for the workers of this country in regards to pension. So the pension issue will go to a constitutional court. I will never insult the intelligence of public officers by guaranteeing them that they will get their pension and gratuity, simply because the matter is going to court. So any trade unionists speaking to their constituents, telling them and promising them pension, will be doing it on a fallacious foundation, because no trade unionist has the power to guarantee that. As far as the pension is concerned, there are a number of organizations, 6 organizations, PW, GUT, TAU, 2 different police sections, prisons, looking into how the pension can be restored. So it's done collectively. No one trade union leader has the power to restore it. As far as I'm concerned, I have shown my determination to make sure that workers get that 25% gratuity and their pension going forward. I have marched, I have spoken in the media, and I have used my own personal social media platform to agitate for that 25% gratuity, right? That has happened. You can be seeing the digital footprints are there, and the digital footprints are there with that sort of agitation. It can be seen with the We Strive for 25 hashtag, which I created in order to uplift the movement for that 25% gratuity. So people can go back, look at my social media, look at the things I've said, the fact that I've marched, and know that pension and gratuity is one of the #1 things that we face. However, like I said, I'm not going to insult the intelligence of constituents or public officers and say I will single-handedly restore pension. That will be a fallacious principle. It's in the court, and it's well handled by 2 former attorney generals who will use the Constitution of Grenada, basically Section 92, which speaks to the 1958 pension, and Section 106 of the Constitution, which speaks to the Pension Disqualification Act not being a constitutional law, which that law, the government is trying to prop on that to disenfranchise workers. So simply put, I'm not a lawyer, but based on my layman's interpretation, I believe that workers have a extremely good opportunity to get that 25% gratuity, and it will be very soon in the hands of the court. And I pray that it will work out in the best way for workers. In the meantime, if elected president, we will not leave it as a dead issue just because it's in the court. We will also educate, because we have been sorely lacking in workshops and educational workshops in the last 2 years. We'll use the opportunity to educate workers via workshop as to why they have constitutional rights, and to debunk some of the misinformation that the government of Grenada is letting out in regards to the pension and the rights of workers, right? Secondly, it's extremely important from where I sit. I have had the fortunes and the privilege to sit under 3 presidents of the PW. I worked on the executive of Madonna Harford as a youth chair. I worked with Brother Adrian Francis, and I worked with Ms. Roberts as the outgoing president. And I know what leadership is like. I know what teamwork is like. And I must say, under Sister Madonna Harford, I saw very, very good demonstration of democracy and teamwork, and also under Brother Adrian. One of the things I've experienced being under the leadership of the outgoing president, and like I say, I want to be very candid, and this is in no way an attack on the individual person of Ms. Roberts, but I have to be very truthful in my deliberations here today. There is still respect, but I have to be truthful. So one of the things I've experienced is the lack of democracy on the executive of the PW. The talents of the executive was not harnessed to its optimum level. The executive members did not get the opportunity to have an input as to how we go forward as an organization. And that I deem that as a negative, because it has translated to workers not being able to get the best representation because the team is not gelled together. With that being said, and with that being understood, I have taken it upon myself, one, to step forward for the sake of the union and regaining that team spirit and that family atmosphere within the union. So I have put together a team. I must say it's a very, very impressive team of public officers who I know can raise the noses of public officers and bring back the PW to its former prestige. As my first vice president, if you permit me the opportunity, I'll just run through my team and tell you about them, will be Devon Francis. He is the former president of the Junior Doctors Association, right? He is someone I have met before sitting with Madonna Hafford and negotiation teams. I was at that time a youth chair, so I observed in negotiation, and he did a splendid, absolutely splendid job negotiating for workers. I can also tell you he's very militant, he's articulate, and in the last fracas, for lack of a better word, with the Prime Minister making his utterances at the town hall meeting, Dr. Francis was the first one out with a placard to protest the unfortunate statements of the Prime Minister of this country. So I know he's militant, I know where his heart is, and he's well respected within the community, and he will assist us in trying to get some benefits within the health sector and trying to improve the health sector. The second vice president I have on my team, vying for the second vice president, is a young man by the name of Fimba Thomas. He is very versed in the examination of legal interpretations and so forth. In fact, when the deduction took place after the protest a couple months ago, he was the first to see the loophole in terms of how the government went about doing that deductions, and he told senior people on the executive what the situation was and how we should go forward. Unfortunately, his advice was not taken, but subsequently we saw that there were different legal interpretations, and it can be seen and it is known that the government took illegal steps to deduct the salaries of public officers. So he's a youth with a lot of potential and is very passionate about trade unionism, and he should be given an opportunity to serve once again. As the secretary, I have Agatha Alexis, a woman known in Grenadian circles as somebody who is into the performing arts. She has done a good job. In fact, she has been awarded for that. Apart from that, everything she touched, it deals with basically excellence. She puts a lot into anything she touches. And she has over the years demonstrated a passion for trade unionism, serving on the Mayday committee and doing portrayals on Mayday and just taking part in general trade union activities. So I'm very, very happy and pleased to have Gatti Alexis on my team as the secretary. We also have Paula Phillip as the treasurer. And she's already in by virtue of the fact that no one contested her. She is someone who is currently pursuing a master's in finance, right? She's a well-respected public officer serving in the Ministry of Finance and now in the Ministry of Education. She's versed in finance. She's a hard worker, and the public officers can rest assured she will look after the books and ensure that the funds of the union is saved and utilized properly. Right, and going down the list, I have also on my team Sister Daisy Hazard, who is second to none as far as being a communicator within the service. She will be the P.R.O. She possesses a master's in communication, and she also is extremely passionate about the restoration of pension in this country, and it can also be seen on a social media platform. The digital footprints are there for one to see or to view where her heart, where her mind, and where her attention is as far as workers' rights in this country. And rounding out, we have Margaret Goddard, who will be an assistant secretary, who is the chair of our Mayday committee and has done a spectacular job in ensuring that the union on Mayday brings home the trophy. We have won it 3 years in a row, and hats off to Sister Margaret. She's also serving the last dispensation as the assistant secretary, and she wants another opportunity. She more than deserves it. And then we have Susan Peters as the next assistant secretary in Carriacou. There are a lot of shortcomings in Carriacou, and Susan Peters will be part of the vision of this organization to ensure that CARICO gets its just say in matters. Many people up there are not registered, they don't have benefits, and they feel neglected. Sister Susan is well respected in CARICO. She has a good network in CARICO, and she will be part of the vision to enhance what is going on in CARICO. I'll speak about some of the things we have to do in CARICO a little bit later on. But so basically that's my team, and thus far we have been working well together. We have a shared vision, like I say, and I also want to mention that in the last dispensation, the outgoing executive, there was fracture. The outgoing president spoke to that herself, basically where there was a fracture between the body and the head. So as a result of that, workers did not get the benefits that they deserve. My team will ensure that we stay glued together. We have a shared vision, and workers will benefit based on the diverse skill set that is constituted in our team, right? Thirdly, I want to speak about the benefits that have been accrued or lack thereof over the last 2 years, right? The way we have approached negotiations, in my view, has been very disappointing. We have gone to the table with high level of emotionalism led by our outgoing president, and we have not had scientific and database information to present to the other side of the table to substantiate our points, right? So one of the things I will do, or we will do as a team in the next dispensation, is to ensure that negotiations take place with scientific data, statistics that will empower our position on behalf of the workers, and not simply going at the table with basically telling the government they are obligated based on just feeling. There must be a scientific basis. The style of negotiation we have had over the last 2 years has borne no fruit. I can say within that same time, the Grenada Union of Teachers have signed on to fringe benefits package. We have not signed on to any fringe benefits package within the last 4 years. And that is the reality under the outgoing leadership. Before that, under Adrian Francis, he was sick for the greater part of his presidency, and the latter part, the presidency was taken upon by the first vice president, who was Ms. Roberts at the time, and again, no fringe benefits were signed to. So basically, in the last 4 years, public officers, they know it, and it can be researched. No benefits have been signed on to, while within the same space, within the same time, irrespective of structural adjustment, our sister unions can boast of fringe benefits for their constituents. So we're going to go with database information and so forth. And I also have a vision to enlist the talents of public officers. The way things are currently constructed, it seems to be a one-man show, right? Or a one-woman show, if I have to be frank, if I have to be honest. But one of the things I have earmarked is to have standing committees, which the PW Constitution makes provisions for. And one of the standing committees will be a fringe benefits committee. So I will get diverse views from different parts of the public service. We'll have a 5-member team. So we will present them with the past fringe benefits that we have attained a long time ago. And then they will compare it, and they can come up with innovative proposals to government, and workers can actually realize some benefits rather than simply talk going forward in the new era, right? So we're going to change the way we negotiate. It's going to be database, fact-based, it's going to be sober, and we will eliminate the emotionalism. Also, something I have to talk about that is near and dear to my heart, right, is contract work. Contract officers in this country have not gotten proper representation. Recently I have made a statement, being the P.R.O, I'm the outgoing P.R.O, when we had the 4% increase. I spoke to the fact that government did not give the contract officers who pay union dues at 4%. That is almost criminal. There is no logical reason why contract officers should be disbanded or disenfranchised in that manner. Right? So I spoke to that. The outgoing president did not see a need to speak about that matter. I do not know, I cannot speak to why there isn't a thrust to improve the stature of public contract officers that we represent, because basically in our PW constitution under Article 4A, it gives us the rights to represent these workers, right? Under our constitution, Article 4A, right? So I have seen in the past, take for example, with the contract officers in Nawasa. 1 year ago, I marched with the contract workers at Nawasa along with our sister union, the Technical and Allied Workers Union, along with Fimba Thomas, the person I alluded to before, the second vice president. Conspicuously absent was the president of the Public Workers Union, Ms. Roberts. What has happened thus far is that the TAU workers, contract officers in Nawasa, have gotten permanent, and the PW workers who should have gotten permanent at the same time, they have been disenfranchised. So as we speak right now, the contract officers under PW, they remain under contract while they rub shoulders with TAU workers who are permanent, and that is a sad, sad reality. In addition to that, because they are not permanent and on the permanent establishment, and the union has not fought for them as they should have, they cannot vote in the upcoming elections on the 8th. So they have been further disenfranchised based on the misrepresentation of the leadership of this organization. Now, listen, I am not saying these things to be harsh. I'm not saying these things to be disrespectful, but running the PW is not a matter of empathy. It should be performance-driven. It should be benefits-driven. And if one does not perform, one has to make room for people who have the constituents' interest at heart. So this is where we are. So I would just like to encourage public officers on the 8th. I can go more, but based on limited time, I cannot get into more. But to vote for a strong, cohesive team, vote for better representation, and vote for a family atmosphere, a militant atmosphere, and actually a path that has strategy going forward. So vote for Brian Grimes as president of the Public Workers Union on March 8th, and you can rest assured that you will have a passionate, results-driven individual at the helm of your prestigious union. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, Brian, limited time. You got your 20 minutes, but the limited time, I don't know. There are so many questions here that have come in from people on Facebook and so on. I want to fire these off, but I'm going to ask you to be very brief. First of all, Earl Joseph Maitland says, I believe in the authenticity of the advertised genuine efforts from Mr. Grimes. Ryan Jaban says, teachers in the state of Grenada are well deserving of their pension and gratuity. As a retired person myself who has dedicatedly served the public, my life has to continue in retirement. Kipling Francis in New York says, please be afraid of someone who, when introducing themselves to the public, uses more I, me, my. That's the making of a dictator. A coup in the making. Alpha Veronica Farre says, I'm here wondering why this PWU elections message is not resonating among a group of workers, those employed with statutory bodies. Yet for all, we're paying union dues. A number of us are going to sit this one out. Let me stop there for a minute, give you a chance to respond.
Yeah, well, in terms of that, it's unfortunate in walking around and speaking to workers, the statutory bodies have been left out. I just spoke to Nawasa in T.M.R.O. Community College, TAMCC. The workers there are heavily disillusioned by the misrepresentation of the leadership in the last couple of years. I don't want to go into detail because time is limited, but there was a matter that the executive decided upon, and it was reversed by the outgoing president, which was very harmful to the realization of the workers' rights there. So don't take my word for it. Go speak to the IT workers at the T.M.R.O. Community College, and you'd understand why. But they understand that it's not as a result of the whole executive, but it as a result of people taking unilateral, unfortunate stances.
Fitzroy Adams says, Mr. Grimes, I listen to you. I want to know from you, what are the changes you will make concerning Carriacou?
Oh, that is a very pertinent question. The first thing, our organization has provisions within our constitution to have basically district boards. So we are trying to decentralize the executive or the powers of the union, where everything is not simply on the national executive, but other areas can have an executive, and the head of that executive will serve on a national board. So Carriacou will be our pilot project, where they will have their executive up there, address some of the issues up there, connect with us, and so issues can be better handled instead of the workers up there waiting and praying within a 2-year space that somebody casts an eye upon them. They will have the opportunity, based on our leadership, to get their executive going and for them to have a say once and for all.
Ernesto Jose says, good morning, Mr. Grimes. I think you're a great person and wishing you the best in the election.
Thanks
But
a lot.
I would also like, I would have liked you and Ms. Roberts to have a healthy debate on this platform given by Mr. G every Sunday for the union members' benefit. As they make their decisions on who will best represent their interests.
Yes, Brother Grant, you did ask for a debate, but the truth of the matter is, I have seen over the last couple of years that trade unionism has descended into TV trade unionism and personal aggrandizement. I believe the key thing here is to interact with the workers and not have a bloody showdown between two people competing for a position. I will articulate my position along with my team's position directly to workers, and in the coming days you will hear me on the media, but I've utilized my time not for showdowns and debates, but to interact with workers to find out what it is they really want in terms of representation.
Deanna says, hey George, ask Brother Grimes on his visit to Carriacou why he only visited certain offices, such as revenue, and not the administrative staff, who are in the same building.
I don't know if that person was tagging along with me. I don't know what investigations they have done. Going up to Carriacou, I spent a day, and anybody who traverses there know you just have a couple hours to do whatever. So I stopped up in as many places as possible along with my tour guide, the very capable Susan Peters, and interacted with as much workers as possible. So I went to different places as much as I can, so I can catch a boat to come back down to the mainland. But Carriacou can look forward to many more visits from Brian Grimes if I am elected president, and it would not be a situation where what I'm seeing with the outgoing president visiting on the eve of elections after 2 years.
Okay, she also says here the Nawasa negotiations for their contract workers are ongoing. And I must say that in the past, only Sister Rachel has been attending those negotiations. No support from the executive. Yeah. It's getting a little bit sticky here.
Exactly.
Hang on a sec. My little thingy there is kind of stucky. Well, I'm not going to let it beat me. I'm going to turn to another computer here. Yes, the Nawasa negotiations for their contract workers are ongoing, and I must say that in the past, only Sister Rachel has been attending those negotiations. No support from the executive. of which Brother Grimes is a part of. I would like to know, if someone spent almost 10 years on an executive, how come so many issues were never addressed and only today he can see them? What say you, sir?
I don't understand that person's point of view. I have spent 6 years as the P.R.O, not the president. The president has the final say in many issues, irrespective of voting, based on what I've seen, particularly in this last period. In regards to Nawasa, the outgoing president of PW stated categorically and openly to the whole of Grenada, Carriacou and Petit Martinique that she sits and does nothing on a daily basis within the public service. I can say, and you can interview other members of the executive, the outgoing executive, that people have their work to do, and based on how things were done, in terms of notice to go to meetings, you cannot ask your supervisor for time off to go to a meeting 11 o'clock at 10 a.m. And that is one of the shortcomings, communication from the outgoing president. Fortunately for her, she was doing nothing within the public service, so she had more time to attend to matters at Nawasa.
Alpha Veronica Farray says, Mr. Grimes, was it an executive decision to thank the government for paying January salaries early, even though it was deducted by the same government in December? I know this has angered many workers.
Yes, there is some truth to that. It was not an executive decision. I spoke earlier to an interview I did regarding the 4% that was not applied to the contract officers. Within that interview, within the same period, the government were paying on the 21st of January. I know of officers who were struggling in the month of January, and they were happy with that early payment. It was not an executive decision, just as it was not an executive decision to plead on behalf of contract workers for their 4% to be applied. So it was not that. It was not an executive decision. And the outgoing president of the PW countered the thank you and said workers are not thankful. But curiously, she never addressed the fact that contract officers did not get the 4%. So what is the major issue?
Okay. Margaret Francis, and we're talking here about the request for the debate with you and Ms. Roberts. Margaret says that's a BS response. Debates don't have to be acrimonious if one sticks to facts and away from the personal attacks. So says Margaret. She's in New York.
Right.
Sharon says, I'm so tired of people using Carriacou to get people in their corner. Grimes is coming across so fake. Kipling says, now you are exposed. Answer the question. Well, I'm not sure which question he's referring to. Brian, listen, we're really out of time. I was praying that this wouldn't happen, but there are some questions I personally wanted to get in. I'm just going to limit it to one right now because I think you have tried to answer a couple of them by the way a little while ago. The one I'm going to stick with, sir, is I want your views about the docking of salaries. Let me hear you.
Right. In terms of the docking of salaries, that's I believe and I know that it was done illegally. No one is saying that the employer doesn't have rights. The employees have rights, and the employers have a federation, so they also have rights. So there are rights on both sides. But clearly, the way the government docked the salaries of public officers, it was done illegally. Under no democracy can the political directorate, without going through certain independent institutions like the Public Service Commission, simply dip into the pockets of public officers with impunity. That is illegal. And we have seen that it was done maliciously. It was not done with any sort of good intent or any sort of due process, because we have people who are on sick leave, people who did not participate in the action. people who were on maternity leave, their salaries were deducted. So by virtue of the way it was done, it makes the whole process illegal. And this is the same thing that my good friend and teammate Fimba Thomas was saying. And this is what many lawyers, including Cajetan Hood, have come to realize, and even our own union lawyer, Jimmy Bristol. So it was an illegal action, and definitely, if I'm elected president, I will go in there and look at a legal form of redress for this matter going forward.
Brian, we're out of time. I would love to go on a lot longer, but we're out of time. I'm stressed here this morning. Do me a favor. Let's assume you become president next election. Come on back and chart the way forward for us in specific detail.
Is it okay for it to come on every week until?
We could arrange something, man. Listen, I think the people would love an update every week, not just on the unions, but on a lot of different things here in Grenada.
I'll definitely keep in touch with you, Brother George. You have been good to me over the past couple of years, and I will remember that, and I know you have a huge audience. So from time to time, I'll drop by and say happy Sunday to all the constituents and the people in the diaspora.
I think that's music to the ears of the people out there. And Glenn Andrew Mark says, thanks, Brian.
You're welcome.
Fitzroy Adams says, Mr. Grimes, I listened to you about experience and qualification. You just remind me of our present Prime Minister. Boy, you're in company. Person says you remind him of the present Prime Minister. Listen, we'll deal with that on another visit.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, Brian. All the very best.
All right.
And come on back and see us.
All right. Thanks.
Okay?
Appreciate it.
Take it easy.
All right.
Okie doke. Folks, Mr. Brian Grimes there. And I'll tell you what. Let we take another little break here and come back. Alrighty, folks, we're going to be trying to play catch-up for the next little while. I'll tell you what, let's get right into our conversation, which we had, I think it was on Friday afternoon, with a Grandmaster of chess. Now, whether you're a big fanatic of chess or not, you're going to find this interesting. Check it out. Born in 1965, he has had a colorful career on the chessboard, learning to play at the age of 5, becoming the youngest ever participant in the British Chess Championship back in 1977, 3 days before his 12th birthday, becoming in 1979 the youngest international master in chess history, and becoming in 1984, at the age of 19, the youngest Grandmaster in the world. He has been playing chess for over 48 years. We're about to meet Grandmaster Nigel Short, a member of the British Empire. When you take a look at this guy, you would say he's been playing chess for 48 years. Yeah. Take a look here. Sitting next to him is Mr. Terrence Smith, whom I'm sure that most of you know. And Terrence is a member of a newly formed chess association here in Grenada. He is about to introduce his guest. Terrence?
Thank you, George. Good morning to you and your listeners, and thank you very much for hosting us. George, I have been over the last couple of days and weeks member of an ad hoc interim committee that undertook, along with Ruggles Ferguson and Carlisle Glean Jr. and a few others, who undertook the task of planning for and hosting chess Grandmaster Nigel Short, to my right, making his trip a meaningful one, and secondly, in launching, as we did last evening, the Grenada Chess Federation. It is my pleasure to introduce you and your listeners and viewers, George, to Grandmaster Nigel Short.
MBE.
MBE, to be precise, who will spread the word of chess for us all.
Grandmaster, welcome, sir. Welcome.
Thank you, George.
Welcome to Grenada. First of all, before we get into chess, I notice your timing coincides with the visit of the English team here to Grenada.
Pure coincidence.
Yeah,
Pure
sure.
coincidence.
Absolutely, just coincidence. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I've already told the folks here a little bit about you, but I'm sure there's a whole lot more. Chess at the age of 5?
That's right. I really got into chess with the 1972 Fischer-Spassky World Championship match, which for those who don't know, was it's probably been the greatest chess match of all time in terms of its impact. It was headline news at the time. It was they would even interrupt programs on US television to bring them the results of the game. So that was a massive impetus, a spur for me to take up the game. I played the game before that, but only within my family, and because of that match, my parents, they started me off at a club, and I played in my first tournament, which was in Liverpool. It was a large junior tournament with over 2,000 players.
So you've got a prolonged background, if you will.
Absolutely.
Now, I want to fast forward just a little bit, because I understand that last night you had a function and you took on 25 players.
Yep.
How does somebody take on 25 players in a game of chess, sir?
Yeah. Well, what you do, just to describe it physically, I had 25 boards lined up. There were two rows, and I walk around and I play a move on each board. So my opponent makes a move, and then I reply, and then I move on to the next board. So I think it took approximately 3 hours in total yesterday, and I conceded one draw. So there clearly are some good players here in Grenada. There were a lot of beginners as well, which you would expect, but already I saw there were some guys with some ability.
So there is potential here.
There is potential.
Now, I guess that coincides with what you're doing. I understand that you're here to spread the gospel of chess.
That's correct. As well as playing in regular tournaments, I've long believed in promoting the game, and I've done that, literally all over the world. I've been to more than 120 countries in total. So I've very often been the first Grandmaster to visit certain places. So, I'd be the first Grandmaster to go to the Solomon Islands or to Malawi or places like this. So I believe that a person is a happier person if they know how to play chess. And I like spreading the game. And in October last year, I was appointed vice president of FIDE, the World Chess Federation. In fact, I ran for the presidency, but I withdrew at the last minute and backed Arkady Dvorkovich.
Checkmate.
And he was the chairman of the organizing committee of the FIFA World Cup, so he does have some sporting experience. You don't get bigger sporting spectacles than the Football World Cup. So and also he was Deputy Prime Minister of Russia last year. I decided to back him, and he's got a lot of energy, a lot of ideas. And this particular tour was my idea, my proposal. So Arkady and we had dinner in Moscow in late December, and I said, look, the English-speaking Caribbean, or parts of it, it's almost the last frontier for chess. We have 189 member federations in FIDE. It's actually one of the largest sporting bodies in the world. But there are a number of places where they still don't have federations. And so I'm here in Grenada, I'm off to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia, St. Kitts, and finally I'm going to the Cayman Islands. So 4 countries and 1 British overseas territory. They're all entitled to have federations, and I'm hoping to bring in as many of these countries as possible. If I get 3 to join, I think it will have been a success. If I bring in more, it will be a resounding triumph.
So that your quest is to make us a happier civilization, because you mentioned that chess can play a role in a person's disposition. But we were also, just before we started this conversation, you also mentioned to me that chess is important to keeping the mind active.
Well,
Let's talk about that for a bit.
It is. I think there are things from with kids. If we start off at that level, that we call our species Homo sapiens, so wise man, but I think we are more Homo ludens, game playing man. This is how we learn. So it's learning through pleasure, learning through play, and you will see that kids who, very often they come from backgrounds which are, not academic backgrounds. Maybe the parents are, not intellectuals or anything like that. So they find through the sheer pleasure of playing chess the ability to concentrate, to calculate, to make plans, to take responsibility for their own decisions, all sorts of things like that. And there can be a remarkable transformation. Just to talk about the very first, the seminal scientific experiment on the value of chess in education. It took place in Zaire in 1973. And it was a very simple experiment where one teacher persuaded the headmaster of the school to introduce chess for 1 hour a week instead of mathematics. So they had two groups. They had the one just doing regular maths, and then they had the other group doing maths with a little bit of chess. And at the end of the 1 year, they found that the group that had done chess was, of course, not only much better at chess, but actually better at mathematics, despite the fact they'd done less studying. It's improving the mind and training the mind. And that is one area of focus which we'd very much like to see here in Grenada. But at the other end of life, when you're talking about people as they're getting older, there is also evidence that playing chess reduces your chances of getting Alzheimer's. Of course, you cannot stave off the effects of aging, but you can reduce your chances of getting it, and I think it's by 70%. There was an article in the it was either the British Medical Journal or the Lancet, I forget which one, where they had looked at it. It's one of the best things you can do because it uses many different parts of your brain. I don't wish to overemphasize these things. I play chess because it's just a great game and it's a lot of fun. That's how I started. But it does have these other incidental benefits.
I'm sure that out there in the audience right now are persons who play chess. I don't know if it's a massively popular game, but I'm sure there are people who do play chess.
There are literally hundreds of millions of people who play chess worldwide. In most countries, it is a minority sport. In some places, it's very, very popular indeed. But for example, in the UK, there are more chess sets in the UK than there are cricket bats.
Okay.
So,
really?
Yes. Yeah. And how often people play, that's another matter, because often there is a set and people maybe have played a few games and then they don't play for a long time. These are the sort of people we want to bring back into the game to get them connected and to reintroduce them to the beauty of chess.
I'm not going to be able to let you leave here today without asking you to leave a few tips for the people who may be interested in the game or do play the game already. But before that, I read somewhere that you were at one time number 3 in the world?
I played the World Championship final. That's what I prefer to say. I reached the final of the World Championship. So in terms of the numerical ranking, I was number 3 in the world for 18 months. And I was in the top 10 players in the world for about a decade. 1993, I defeated the great Russian former world champion Anatoly Karpov, and then I eventually reached the final, where I played Garry Kasparov in London. It was a big match. Unfortunately, I came out second best. But that is really the highlight of my career.
Terrence, does Ruggles know all about this guy?
I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does.
Okay.
Ruggles has a colleague, very briefly, Ruggles has a colleague, Ian, is it? Wilkinson?
That's right.
From Jamaica, Ian Wilkinson QC, a professional colleague of his, who is the president, I believe, of the Jamaica Chess Federation. And he has been also very supportive of Nigel's trip here.
Yeah.
And he's been in touch with us on an email group.
He's been instrumental.
So forth.
It would have gone ahead anyway, but Ian has helped enormously with this.
Yeah, he provided us with the Jamaica Chess Federation's registration form, so we amended it, and that's what we've used. We have registered, as I said, 33 persons so far. And if I could use the opportunity to send out an appeal, George, to your audience, anybody in Grenada who has played chess, who currently plays chess, who wishes to learn the game of chess, we are going to be out there. We're going to be visible. We are going to be setting up a Facebook page and trying to use social media. Please try to reach out to us. The first thing we want you to do is to get hold of a registration form, fill in your basic details, and join the Grenada Chess Federation, which we hope to launch formally within we undertook last night at the meeting, where we passed a resolution. There were about, as I said, over 40 people there. We passed a resolution that we wish to form a Grenada Chess Federation, and we gave ourselves 3 months to get that done. We'll have our first AGM. We are going to circulate before then a draft constitution for the Grenada Chess Federation, at which at the first AGM, inaugural AGM, we hope to adopt that document, that constitution, and then we'll have elections for the first executive. So that is what we are about.
And a lot can be done. It just is dependent on the initiative and the energy of certain people. With Ian Wilkinson in Jamaica, they have introduced over 50,000 new players. Over 50,000 to the game of chess in the last few years.
That's half of our population.
Yeah. So you're not going to get 50,000 here, but we'd like to see a few hundred to begin with, and you know, it's starting from scratch. Already we were impressed that so many people showed up at incredibly short notice last night, and it's clear that there are other people who play chess, who like chess, like yourself, as we've learned that you used to play
Folks,
on.
He's trying to rope me in.
That you know, have played and have enjoyed the game, and we're certain there are others out there.
Okay, now just to whet their appetites. For those who are watching right now who are already players, some tips.
Well, there are two building blocks really of becoming a very strong player. There's the practice, and you have to play on a regular basis. It's a little bit like lifting weights. You're doing exercises. You can get yourself fit for a month, and then if you don't do anything after that for several months, your body basically goes back to the situation it was before. So you need this sort of constant practice. So play as much as possible. And one thing I'd like to say is there are so many more opportunities for people nowadays. In the past, you had this tyranny of geography and distance, and that if you were in a village or something where there were no other players, that was it. You were basically stuck. Whereas now you can go online and you can be playing literally within seconds against somebody in the Philippines or Russia or England, United States, wherever, and you have those opportunities to play. So if you go on a website like chess.com, there are literally billions of chess games being played. So it's many millions during the course of a year, and billions in total. And there are something like, I think, at least 100 websites where you can play chess. Chess.com is one of them. Is one of the largest. Play chess, lie chess. There are others. It doesn't matter. So those are opportunities which were not available to the previous generation. And if I may add, learning tools. Now, in the past, when I was growing up, you needed access to literature, chess literature. You had to study the best games of the great champions of the past, and unless you had some money yourself to start a little library, or you were living near somewhere where there was a library available, you didn't really have the opportunities. Now there is loads of information that is available online, and you can download an app, free app on your mobile phone.
That will teach you.
That will be able to slaughter the world chess champion Magnus Carlsen. So you can have at your fingertips, anyone with a mobile phone can have at his fingertips a learning tool that is actually more powerful than the world champion. So there has been this great democratization of information that no longer do you need to be at a disadvantage. Probably in the past, if you were in Grenada, you would be at a disadvantage. But now things have changed. It's opened right up, but it's also very, very important to play simply over the board. And this is what the initiative of last night is about, bringing people together. It was great to see those people in the room, many of whom didn't know each other.
Correct.
They had their chess enthusiasm, and then suddenly they see There are other people in the room, they no idea they existed, who share a common interest.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. So ultimately, yes, you should be sitting down and playing with somebody over the board, because that's how tournament chess is played. But you can practice without this. You can play online, and you can do that anytime. You can be doing that literally within the next few seconds.
Okay, so one, practice. Practice.
Yeah.
And it's possible to practice. You know, some people might be a little bit apprehensive by practicing with an experienced player. But
Yeah.
you're saying you can do this online.
Yeah.
So it's
I'll tell you the advantage of doing it online. I mean, I don't want to plug any particular website, but just say the largest one,
chess.com.
Chess.com. If you go online, you'll start playing, and you will immediately you play a few games, you will get a rating, and you will play against people within a certain band, close to your rating, and maybe a bit up, maybe a bit down. So obviously there is no point in playing against someone much better than you. And by the way, if you challenge me on chess.com, then I wouldn't play you. Anyway, but you have the because it's, if you're playing for fun, you want to have a good game. It's not a question of swatting flies.
Okay.
So, but you will very quickly find your level, and then you can work towards improving yourself from that initial level.
Thank you very much, Grandmaster Nigel Stewart, MBE. Short, excuse me. And let me put you on guard. Because of the advice that you've just given to me, the next time you're here, I'm going to beat the living daylights out of you.
I welcome your enthusiasm. So very good. I'll look forward to playing you.
He says with a great big smile. Hey. And Terrence, good luck with the association. I look forward to chatting with you folks a lot more.
And as I said, I will be sending you a registration form for you to join the nascent Grenada Chess Federation.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks for having us.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Grandmaster Nigel Short, MBE, on a whirlwind visit here, trying to spread the gospel of chess. All right, so there you have it. That's the interview with the Grandmaster. Now, while you were listening to that, there are some comments being made here. Chris Davies says that they play chess at the Grenada Community Library. They're teaching the kids how to play chess. And let's see. Ryan says, I remember playing chess in the parks in Liverpool and Croydon in the UK. Bill Graham, as I mentioned to you, we're running a little bit behind time this morning. Ambassador Veloz from the Bolivarian Republic, Venezuela, he is here, and we're going to get to him in just a wee bit. But before that, let us get to that conversation I had with the Economist yesterday, Laurel Bain, as she speaks about policy issues in the Eastern CCB, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. Here we go. Hardy folks, once again, a very good morning, and thank you for hanging in there. This morning we're going to be talking with an economist who's going to teach you about fiscal policies of the eastern member countries of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. This lady's an economist. Her name is Laurel Bain. And just so that you understand that she is more than well qualified to talk with you about this particular issue, I want to share a bit of her biography with you. Her name is Laurel Bain. She's a former employee of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, where she served as Senior Director in the Strategic Planning and Projects Department in the Governor's Office. At the Central Bank, Ms. Bain served in various positions with over 20 years at a managerial level, including that of Deputy Director in the Research Department, Senior Director of the Statistics Department, and an advisor in the Governor's Office. With over 25 years in central banking experience and considerable research on fiscal policy and tax structures, Ms. Bain has undertaken assessments of the economies of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union and research on fiscal policy and taxation issues in the ECCU. She has worked extensively with international development partners and regional institutions. Following her retirement, Ms. Bain has been involved in a CDB-sponsored project which provided training to senior public officers in Dominica, Montserrat, Anguilla, and trainers in these countries along with the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands. She has been involved in undertaking assessment and developing training programs for parliamentarians, with Guyana as the pilot. Ms. Bain is now providing support to the OECS Commission. She holds a bachelor's degree of Science and Master's of Science, MSc degrees in Economics from the University of the West Indies in Trinidad and Tobago. Take a look. There she is. Great smile. Thank you very much for joining us, Laurel, and welcome to Grenada Broadcast.
Thank you very much, George, and good morning to all the listeners.
I read the brief that you sent about this project that you're currently working on, and I want you to start by explaining to listeners why, in the first place, did you undertake this? Huh?
Yes, George. After years of working at the central bank and gaining experience, particularly on fiscal policy issues, undertaking extensive research, and also developing my writing skills while at the central bank, I thought it would be beneficial both to the students, practitioners, and the general citizens to benefit from the knowledge of the fiscal policies that were debated, in which I wrote about, and I did so by documenting it in 2 books, Fiscal Policy, the Economy, and the Tax Structure of the Member Countries of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. I should mention here that I started the process also by doing a lecture to the student of the T.A. Marisho Community College and the UWI Open Campus students, and I presented these books as donation to the libraries.
You know, when I read the brief that you sent to me, I got the impression that you were targeting these books at the youngsters in our society today, which is great because, you know, so many kids are graduating today with a lot of academics, but really aren't prepared to face the world out there. Okay, now that's having been said, reading that document, I also got the feeling that there are a lot of us adults who really don't know about fiscal policies in the OECS. We don't know about fiscal policies here in Grenada, let alone the OECS. Am I correct in assuming that that was your primary focus, helping to better educate us about fiscal policies?
Right. Yes, the primary focus is to educate on fiscal policies. I targeted the younger folks, particularly through the schools, because they are the ones who will lead the process in terms of fiscal policy in the future. However, the book is written in such a way that each citizen can benefit from looking, reading, and understanding the fiscal policy issues, both in Grenada and in the other member countries of the central bank.
Now, there's several sections in that first book, the one on the economy, and I want us to take them one at a time, at least a few of them. I don't know if we're going to cover all of them. But fiscal transparency issues in the member countries of the ECCB. What are you talking about there?
Yeah. On that note, it started off with the fact that fiscal policy is the main instrument used by governments to manage the economy. And therefore, in doing so, the fiscal policy pursued must be efficient and there must be transparency because of the pervasive impact that fiscal policy could have on the economy through national income, employment, and general stability. So in terms of transparency, it divided it into two components, what we call functional transparency and institutional transparency. And here, in functional transparency, what we are talking about is that fiscal policies should be clearly defined. It should be operated with fiscal targets. And when we say clearly defined, it should be clearly defined so that the citizens could know what are the objectives of fiscal policies. In addition, the rules that govern the development and implementation of fiscal policy should be clearly defined, and there should be regular publication of information and data. That's a functional transparency issue.
Laurel, transparency is a big issue in the Caribbean. As I read the attributes that you hold, I'm sure that you've learned a lot, especially from the ECCU. Are we, and by we I mean our authorities, really doing all that they can to be transparent? Are they really educating the populace?
I would say the process in some of the countries has started. Because if we take it from, as I had a long experience at the central bank, so if we take it from where we come from where we were, there are some progression. However, there is still avenues for improving fiscal transparency. George, I didn't mention the second component, which is institutional transparency, which calls for extensive consultation in defining fiscal policies, in looking at the information and assessing that information. And I think it's that consultation aspect we are lacking on in terms of fiscal policies and in terms of clearly defining the objective and the targets we need to monitor. There are areas for improvement in these components of fiscal transparency.
Another issue, tax concessions and their impact on the revenue base of the ECCB. Tax concessions are always a very sensitive issue here in the Caribbean, and for countries such as Grenada, where we've just gone through some heavy manners, if you will, it's become even more important. Let me hear you talk about the concessions and the impact on the revenue base of ECCB territories.
Okay, and I will put that in context, George. The reason why we look at tax concession and the impact on the revenue base, because taxes is one of the main sources of government revenue. Your tax system has to be efficient. One of the criteria we use to determine efficiency is the erosion index. That is, how close is your actual revenue from your potential revenue, the revenue you could earn. Tax concessions tend to erode your revenue base. So your actual revenue is far from your potential revenue. However, tax concession is granted for a reason. It is anticipated that it will attract capital, you will have investment, and from investment you will have increase in national income, employment, and further income. However, what we were observing at that point in time is that tax concessions were granted, but effective monitoring was not taking place. And therefore, the impact of that tax concession was not being assessed. And so therefore, it was necessary to look and see, document, what are these tax concessions granted? How are they affecting the revenue base? And what are the benefits? The problem, the issue you had there is that because of the lack of monitoring, the benefits are not totally calculated. And hence we look at the erosion index, and we saw in some countries almost more than 25% of revenue was being lost by the granting of tax concession. Some were higher, some were lower, but we had significant of money, income being lost from the granting of tax concession.
I guess there's a fine line to be thread here because, yes, you're talking about the 25% loss because of, the tax concessions. But at the same time, in these very difficult times, businesses need some incentive to get started. And sometimes you just feel overburdened. I mean, just to bring little goodies in here for the equipment that I operate, the taxes that you have to pay, it's very prohibitive.
Yes. But therefore, you see, the issue is when the tax concession is ad hoc. On the issue of transparency, what an aspect of transparency is that you have to have rules and regulations that governs the relationship between the fiscal policy makers and the rewarders. And the ad hoc nature is one of the issues that relates to the tax concession. And in the period when the document was written, the tax concessions were more of ad hoc. My thinking is that under fiscal policy, you must know your objective, and you want to know what you want to incentivize. And in that context, you grant an incentive. So everyone is aware of the incentives being granted, so you don't have to go negotiating because you have rules and regulation governing the operation.
Simple enough from your perspective. Okay. The other one I want to tackle you on is the revenue generating capacity of these member countries of the ECCB. Revenue generation for a lot of these islands, tax, pain, isn't it? Do you envision a day, Laurel, when governments will come up with some alternative way of generating revenues besides just slapping a tax here, slapping a tax there? Let's take a look at the airlines. This morning I was reading where Liat only has enough money to operate for the next 10 days. Only this morning. Well, yesterday morning, because you're watching this on Sunday. But can you believe that? And people complain about, oh my gosh, it's so expensive to travel with Liat. But when you break down those fares, Laurel, taxes. Let me get your take on this, my dear.
Well, George, maybe I could just draw you through some of the alternatives that are available to finance operations. Because in any society, there must be authority to provide some basic goods and services and infrastructure. And that authority must find revenue financing from some source. What are the options? One, you can borrow.
No, Laurel, we're in debt big time.
Right? So borrowing creates a debt, and it eventually affects your creditworthiness. So borrowing is not a sustainable option of financing fiscal operations.
Okay.
You can print money.
Yeah, and then you're faced with inflation?
You're faced with inflation. You're faced with inflation, and it affects the competitiveness of the economy, and therefore it's not sustainable. The other thing you can do, you can confiscate resources from the private sector.
You can what?
Confiscate resources from the private sector.
Confiscate resources from the private
Yeah,
sector?
because you're the authority. You can't take. That is not sustainable either. So what we find in most countries, the sustainable option for financing government is taxation. However, George, the tax system must be efficient. The tax system must be efficient.
Laurel, I'm sitting here now, and I can just see, the CEOs of various corporations around the place saying, is this lady Maduro? You can confiscate.
It's an option. It's not.
Yeah, I
it's
know.
not,
I know. You're not advocating it. You're just saying it's an option.
It's an option.
And so,
I should mention, George, it's not sustainable. It's not tolerable, particularly under a democratic system of government. But I'm opening all the options to bring to you to the point that what is sustainable and what has proven to be sustainable is taxation. But I want to emphasize also, as I said, taxation, that the tax system must be efficient.
Yeah, efficient. Okay. Now, so in that case, the corporations seem to get away scot-free, and then the little guy winds up paying the brunt of the taxes. We hear about, I don't know how much it happens here, but in the United States, a lot of the big corporations pay essentially penny halfpenny, relatively speaking, to what the small guy pays. Anyhow, but that's all described in your book.
Yeah, all it's right. It also gives you the criteria for an efficient tax system. And one of the things is equity. It should be equity. And then you have to look at the system as a whole, because one tax cannot satisfy all the criteria of an efficient tax system. So when you combine what we call your direct taxes, your indirect taxes, and you look at the system, you should have an efficient system, equitable, easy to administer, certain and convenient, responsive to economic growth, buoyant. As the economy grows, your tax revenue should naturally grow, so that you don't have to be constantly imposing taxes.
Right.
So you have to, the design of the tax system is what is critical.
One of the sections of your book that really caught my attention, and it's for obvious reasons, we've just been through a structural adjustment program. Now, somebody with your background, you're not just dealing with Grenada as an administrator in the CBU. You're dealing, not CBU, the ECCU. You're familiar with what's going on in all these OECS islands. I want to hear your assessment of the structural adjustment we just underwent here in Grenada.
George, I will start by saying, first of all, countries should avoid having to go into structural adjustment program. What should happen on performance should be monitored ongoing. As you see, misalignments among the accounts, you should address them. From the time you reach into deep disequilibrium, you have to make what we call discretionary tax measures. In terms of structural adjustment, the emphasis is generally on balancing the account, reducing your debt, reducing your arrears, and balancing the account. In balancing the accounts, there are generally some social implications. I did the assessment when we did the 2002 structural adjustment, and there was a negative social impact because you have to have expenditure constraint and you have to have revenue increase. However, if the structural adjustment program is accompanied by well-defined capital program, it allows for the growth in the economy and to stimulate some employment. So my thinking on the structural adjustment program, it is never easy. Never. You always have negative social impact. The important thing is to ensure that you reduce government consumption expenditure, channel it into investment expenditure, increase the productive capacity of the economy, and generate employment.
Did we have to go into a structural adjustment program here?
You had imbalances because you had the debt relatively high. And anytime you have imbalances, you have to adjust.
Don't have much choice.
You don't have much choice.
It's called
You have to avoid the imbalances. Monitor the economy as you go along. Try to avoid going into deep imbalances because you are not operating in isolation. You are operating in an international environment.
Mm-hmm.
And in that international environment, you deal with international institutions and international agencies. And all these come to bear on you in terms of what do you do with the economy.
The economy being the nation's finances.
The nation's finances.
Nation's finances, okay. I don't know if you dealt with this in your book, but I'm sure that you're aware that government is the institution, if you will, responsible for managing our finances. Am I correct in that?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now, we recently had this thing called the Fiscal Responsibility Act come into effect. Do you think that's really going to enhance things, Laura?
Really?
Do you think that's really going to enhance the way we manage our finances?
Okay. Now, Fiscal Responsibility Act arises out of the need, and in terms of fiscal transparency, I remember they said we need clearly defined targets. We have some countries, not with Fiscal Responsibility Acts, that have established targets in terms of managing the financing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in terms of the targets and the Responsibility Act, in my opinion, if you are supposed to manage the economy, it must give you some room space to manage the economy. So, in terms of Responsibility Act and targets, in the design, it's very important that you have design that will allow space to manage if things goes not as planned.
Right.
So you have an example, let's say in Chile, when they had targets. They had the targets over a cycle. So it allows the authority to manage during periods of boom, during periods of depression, and to have a target over a period. So in terms of Responsibility Act, it's good. But the authorities have the responsibility to manage the economy, and you must have room to use their discretion, in my opinion, to manage the economy.
Laurel, I think we only have time for one more section of that book, and this one has to do with the value-added tax. Okay, talk a bit about the relevance of VAT to the OECS, the members of the ECCB, actually.
You're right. And just to bring it briefly into how the issue of the debate on the VAT came up. At first, we had a consumption tax that was levied on goods, merchandise goods. However, in the economy, we had a number of transactions taking place that was outside the taxation of goods. We had services developing. So we didn't have a broad-based consumption tax. The issue was, how do you tax these services? In addition, you had the currency union was operating with other CARICOM countries that already had VAT in place. When you look at the VAT, on the VAT itself, we call what we call, once it's broad-based, it's economically neutral. In other words, because everything is taxed almost at the same rate, you cannot shift from one to the next to avoid the tax, number one. Two, because it is broad-based, it hits everything at the same rate, so we call it tend to be regressive. The lower income will pay a higher portion of the income on that tax. So what you do, what has happened, they exempt or zero rate some of the goods. It is very buoyant in terms of the revenue yield. In most cases, what has happened when you estimate the revenue, you actually get more because of the transactions in terms of the value of the tax. It is a good tax, properly administered, as again, administration of the tax is important, but it cannot satisfy the criteria of equity in the tax system. So if you have the VAT, and you could introduce some equity in it to make it more palatable to the lower income, but the VAT alone cannot be relied on for equity of a tax system because it will be too burdensome to the lower income.
Right.
So you have to look at the tax system as a whole.
Laurel, thank you very much. I imagine that in the book you go into a lot more detail than we have been able to go into here this morning. By the way, I'm sure you're going to be trying hard to get it out to the schools, but what about Joe Blow on the street? People who may have heard what you had to say here this morning and are interested. Where can they get a copy?
Well, at this point in time, I'm arranging to have 2 bookstores, and we may even go electronically in terms of the book itself, but I will keep the public informed in terms of availability. I'm targeting universities, colleges, bookstores electronically, and we will keep the public informed.
Thank you very much.
And yes, and I want to just take this opportunity to pay a tribute to someone who have been like a mentor. And I say this to the late Sir K. Dwight Venner.
Yeah.
To me, he has proven to be a very visionary leader. He was a hardworking and dedicated professional and a strong advocate for the integration of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. So I pay a special tribute to him, and also to my son, Prince Moses, who has been tolerant with me during my working years and while I write my books.
I've only met Sir Dwight a couple of times, but he impressed me every time I met him. Yeah, good gentleman. Thank you very much, Laurel. She is an economist and formerly with the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. And I certainly hope you did learn a lot. And she's going to let us know details on how you can get your paws on that book. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Alrighty, folks, here we are. Now, usually at the end of a segment like this, I read the comments that you folks have been making on social media. However, please bear with me today because I'm going to forego those comments. And I do humbly suggest that in the interest of time, you go back later on today to both the Grenada Broadcast site, where you can see the comments on Rumble Chat, and also on Facebook. A lot of comments on there, so you'll be able to read those because they're very, very poignant comments, okay? The reason why I'm foregoing that is because I have already kept Ambassador Veloz waiting, and I don't want him to wait any longer, okay? He should have been on the air with you 24 minutes ago. It's now 24 minutes after 11 o'clock. And I was hoping that we could probably go about an hour. I'm not sure we're going to do an hour, but we're definitely going to try and get as much as possible in. But first, let's take a little break here and we'll come on back.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Core Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank. And there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try their sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Alrighty, folks, this is where I'm going to say a very good morning to my in-house guests. First of all, well, that's me there on the right. But then in the middle, you're looking at Ambassador Guerrero, Jorge Guerrero Veloz. And sitting on his left is his interpreter, Dana Lazarus. Now, Jorge is Spanish for George. So this morning you have a back and forth between two Jorges, Jorge Grant and Jorge Veloz. Okay? Jorge Veloz, good morning to you, sir, and welcome to Grenada Broadcast.
Thank you, Mr. John, for inviting us for this interesting interview for talking about Venezuela. Thank you.
You're going to have to speak a little louder.
Tiene que hablar más alto.
¿Ah?
Habla más alto.
Es que no me escucho. Ahora sí.
Go ahead.
Ahora sí me escucha.
That's
Perfect.
better. That's
Perfect.
better. Okay. Ambassador, your people are faced with a very difficult situation in Venezuela now. And I want to find out from you a lot of things, but perhaps I think the place to start is, how do you see a resolution being brought about to what Venezuela currently faces?
Bueno, nosotros en realidad el presidente Nicolás Maduro siempre ha dicho, primero que nada, que está dispuesto a una resolución pacífica, todo en el marco de nuestra Constitución.
Our President Nicolas Maduro has always said that he would like to see a resolution, a very peaceful one, in the framework of the Constitution.
In the framework of the Constitution. Now, I know that you are placing a lot of emphasis on the Constitution. Explain to me how the Constitution will resolve this issue.
Mira, uno de los grandes problemas que ha tenido Venezuela, hablo de la perspectiva política,
One of the biggest problems that Venezuela has had, and I'm speaking from a political perspective,
es el no reconocimiento de las fuerzas políticas, sociales y patrióticas
is not recognizing the political, patriotic, ¿y qué más?
que apoyan y acompañan al presidente Nicolás Maduro,
That support and accompany President Nicolas Maduro.
llamadas bolivarianismo o chavismo.
Bolivarianism or Chavism.
Nosotros somos una realidad.
We are a reality.
El chavismo existe
Chavism exists
como fuerza política.
as a political force.
Entonces, si usted no reconoce
So if you do not recognize
a su adversario político,
your political adversary,
está equivocado.
then you are mistaken.
Entonces, cuando se habla de Venezuela,
So when one speaks of Venezuela,
se excluye a las fuerzas políticas que han venido durante estos últimos 20 años
the political forces that have been present during these
votando
years are excluded, and so therefore
por la revolución bolivariana. Nosotros hemos hecho en estos últimos 20 años
for the
alrededor de
Bolivarian revolution, we have for these past years
alrededor de 26 elecciones,
had about 26 elections,
de las cuales hemos perdido 2.
of which we have only lost 2.
Y cuando hemos perdido, hemos reconocido nuestra derrota.
And when we have lost, we have recognized that.
So in other words, you're saying to me that Venezuela is a democratic country, even though some parts of the world say you're not.
Es correcto.
That's correct.
Esa es la matriz que han querido poner
That is the matrix that they have wanted to impose
sobre el tema de que Venezuela, el presidente no es un presidente democrático.
about the topic that Venezuela's president is not a democratic one.
Por ejemplo, el año pasado hubo elecciones.
For example, last year there were elections.
Hicieron 5 elecciones.
They did 5 elections.
En el caso de las elecciones para gobernaciones de los estados,
In the case of the elections for governing the state,
nosotros tenemos 24 gobernaciones
we have 24 governors,
y la oposición agarró 4 gobernaciones
and the opposition got 4.
bajo el mismo sistema y
Under
con
the
el mismo mecanismo
same system and the same mechanism.
al cual fue electo la Asamblea Nacional.
The National Assembly was elected.
Y después vino las elecciones presidenciales
And then we had the
en mayo.
presidential elections in May,
Y el presidente Nicolás Maduro ganó las elecciones,
and President Nicolas Maduro won that election,
de las cuales participaron 3 candidatos de la oposición.
of which 3 candidates of the opposition participated.
Y después vinieron las elecciones a las alcaldías,
And then we had the
mayor,
the elections for mayor,
de las cuales las fuerzas bolivarianas obtuvimos la mayoría de las alcaldías de todo el país.
where the Bolivarian forces won the majority of those votes.
Entonces uno se pregunta,
So one asks himself,
¿por qué el presidente Nicolás Maduro es ilegítimo, como ellos dicen?
why is President Nicolas Maduro illegitimate, like they say?
Pero si es legítimo, si son legítimos los 4 gobernadores de la oposición,
But if he is legitimate, the 4 governors of the opposition
y los alcaldes de la oposición que también fueron elegidos el año pasado bajo el mismo mecanismo.
and the same mayors who were elected are also illegitimate.
Ahí hay una contradicción.
There is a contradiction.
Y eso no lo hablan para el mundo.
And that is, they do not speak about that to the world.
Es decir, el único no democrático es el presidente.
So that is saying that the only person who is not democratic is the president.
Esa es la contradicción que hay.
That is the contradiction that exists.
Okay, so that's one of the issues, the matter of whether or not you're democratic. Now, I'm going to get to the United States in just a wee bit, but I'm sure that you are aware that there have been a lot of accusations laid on the doorsteps of Venezuela in recent years about the fact that even though you say you're democratic, one, freedom of the press is a big issue. Take a look around. You see that, I think, 3 million people have left Venezuela and gone to other countries because of conditions, whether it be economic or whatever. How do you explain that, sir? 3 million, an exodus of 3 million people.
Bueno, muy buena pregunta esa.
That's a very good question.
Primero, Venezuela, nuestro gobierno, nuestra Cancillería,
Our government,
la Cancillería,
the
Ministerio de Relaciones Exteriores, le ha solicitado a Colombia, a Ecuador, a Perú, a Chile, que nos manden, que nos envíen
has asked that Colombia, Peru, Chile,
Chile,
and Ecuador,
que nos envíen
that they send us
las estadísticas migratorias del ingreso de venezolanos en sus países
the migratory statistics of Venezuelans in their countries,
para decir esas cifras son exactas.
to prove that those ranges are correct.
Esto no quiere decir que estemos negando que hay una migración económica.
That is not saying that we do not recognize that there is an economic migration.
No es la migración no es por perseguidos políticos.
The migration is not about politics,
Sino económico. Bueno, la situación en Venezuela está económicamente está bastante difícil y la gente salió.
But it is an economic migration because, of course, the situation in Venezuela is not. The economic situation is a very difficult one.
Y ellos buscaron a otros países a buscar mejor futuro económico.
And they go to other countries to look for a better economic future.
Okay,
Pero
let's face it, Venezuela was one of the...
Pero lo que no se dice
But what is not said
es que en Venezuela
is that in Venezuela,
viven casi 6 millones de colombianos.
in Venezuela, there are about 6 million Colombians living there
Que se vinieron desde Colombia
that came from Colombia
producto del conflicto armado.
because of armed conflict.
¿Y por qué esos 6 millones, esos casi 6 millones de colombianos
And why these almost 6 million Colombians
no se han regresado a Colombia?
have not returned to Colombia.
Y nosotros, escúcheme, disculpe que me lo interrumpa,
Sorry for interrupting you.
y nosotros no hicimos ninguna alarma,
We never made any alarms,
ni le pedimos ayuda a nadie,
nor did we ask anyone for help
cuando recibimos a casi 6 millones de colombianos
When we
que viven en Venezuela, con todos los beneficios.
when we received almost 6 million Colombians living in Venezuela with all benefits.
Okay. Ambassador, what I was trying to get in here is that you're saying that the migration or the exodus is because of economic conditions in Venezuela, okay? And we'll get to a possible cause of those economic conditions in a minute. But my understanding is that Venezuela was an oil-rich country. You have the largest reserve of oil. And you even sell to the United States. How come then your economy is in the shambles where people have to leave because of the economic situation?
Ok. A la llegada del comandante Chávez a la presidencia
When Chavez took up presidency
en 1998,
in 1998,
recibió un país con el 80% de pobreza.
he received a country who had 80%, was in 80% of poverty.
Entonces, pagar esa deuda social
So to pay that social debt
y convertir el petróleo
and convert oil
en inversión social,
in social investment,
eso fue su reto.
that was his challenge.
Y progresivamente
And progressively,
esas metas se iban cumpliendo.
those goals were fulfilled.
No de en vano, si usted puede revisar los estudios de hace 3 o 4 años atrás de las Naciones Unidas,
If you can review the studies that the United Nations did about 3 or 4 years ago,
habla con el caso del PNUD,
it talks about the case of the PNU,
que es la organización es la agencia de Estados Unidos que mide el desarrollo humano.
that is the organization in the United States that
Venezuela está-
measures development.
Venezuela estaba en lo más alto.
Venezuela is in the top.
Había cumplido, estaba en uno de los países que estaba adelantado en cumpliendo las metas del milenio establecidas por Naciones Unidas.
It was one of the countries that had completed all of the, ticked all the boxes that the United Nations wanted.
Okay, I want to get to the United Nations as well. But essentially, you're saying that this large exodus or migration that we're talking about seems to be brought about by two things. One, yes, the economic situation. But two, you also mentioned that a lot of the people who may be counted in the 3 million who have left Venezuela may actually be people from bordering countries who are going back to their homes.
Es correcto decir que las personas que están contadas en esos 3 millones de personas que están saliendo de Venezuela incluye personas que son de países como en borde de Venezuela, que no son solamente venezolanos.
No. Creo que son venezolanos, pero las cifras no son exactas.
I believe that they're all Venezuelans, but the number is not exact.
No se tiene. Pero, ¿qué pasa? ¿Cuándo empezó eso?
When did this begin?
Eso empieza en el 2016, si no me equivoco, cuando el presidente Obama decreta
This began in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, when President Obama
decreta a Venezuela como una amenaza inusual y extraordinaria para la seguridad de los Estados Unidos.
when President Obama declared Venezuela as a threat.
Ahí empezaron las sanciones
There, the sanctions began,
y el bloqueo a nuestro dinero.
the sanctions and the block on our money began.
¿Mm? Y ¿qué pasa ahora?
And what's happening
En los
now?
últimos años, ¿qué ha pasado? ¿Y qué está pasando ahora mismo? Venezuela no está pidiendo limosna. No es, ¿cómo se dice? Charity. Venezuela no quiere charity. Don't want charity. Venezuela don't want charity.
Venezuela does not want charity.
Nosotros tenemos con qué comprar alimentos y medicina.
We have what we need to buy medicine and food.
But did not Chavez or his predecessor begin printing money, which obviously caused sky-high inflation?
Sí, Chávez no empezó a imprimir dinero que causó la inflación.
¿Qué?
Sí, Chávez y la continuador no empezó a imprimir dinero.
No, a imprimir dinero. No. No, eso es una mentira.
No, that is incorrect. That is a lie.
Nosotros, el presidente Chávez lo que hizo fue hacer inversión social.
What President Chavez did was make social investments.
O sea, revertir todas las ganancias petroleras, producto de la venta de petróleo, en obras sociales para el pueblo.
He made all of the oil resources into ¿qué?
Obras sociales,
Into social work.
Obras sociales para el pueblo,
For the people.
para la grande mayoría.
For the great
En Venezuela,
majority.
la educación es gratuita,
In Venezuela, education is free.
es un derecho
It's a right
establecido en la Constitución.
established in the Constitution.
La salud es gratuita,
Health is free.
es un derecho establecido en la Constitución.
It is a right established in the
Ahora
Constitution.
mismo nosotros hemos construido más de 2.500.000 viviendas.
Right now, we have constructed more than 2,500,000 homes.
Gratuitas para el
For-
pueblo,
for
gratis, bajo recursos. Eso tiene un costo político.
Free, little resources, and that has a political cost.
Ahora mismo, los Estados Unidos nos acaban de robar el gobierno de los Estados Unidos.
So right now, the government of the United States
Nosotros
has just robbed us.
hacemos diferencia. Una cosa es el pueblo de los Estados Unidos que amamos y respetamos.
One thing is Venezuela that we love and respect,
Al pueblo de los Estados Unidos. Y otra cosa es su gobierno
and the other thing is its government,
o la élite de la supremacía blanca racista que
Oh.
gobierna los Estados Unidos.
or the racist white supremacy that comes from the United States,
Que nos están robando 30.000 millones de dólares,
that is robbing us of $30 million,
más los activos de nuestra compañía Citgo en los Estados Unidos.
plus the properties of our
Citgo.
signal company,
O como el Banco de Inglaterra,
or like the Bank of England,
que nos está robando 550 millones de dólares
that is robbing us of $15 million
en reservas de oro que tenemos ahí,
in gold reserves that we have,
que no la quieren devolver.
that they do
O
not want to return to us,
o el banco Euroclear en Bruselas,
or the Bank
Bélgica.
Euroclear in Brussels,
que nos tiene 1.300.000 dólares bloqueados y no los quiere devolver.
that has $1,300,000 blocked of our money that they do not want to give
Y
us,
otras cuentas, otros dineros producto de la venta del petróleo que nos tienen en Suiza.
and other money, which is products of oil that they have in
Con todo ese dinero, nosotros podemos solucionar nuestros problemas.
With all of this money, we can resolve our problems.
Pero hay una persecución financiera,
But there is a financial persecution,
un saqueo de nuestros dinero, un robo descarado al estilo colonial.
but they're robbing us of our money in a colonial way.
Entonces, claro, ellos dicen, ese país no económicamente está desgraciado. Pues.
So of course they would say that this country is economically.
Esa es la verdad.
That is the truth.
All right, so you've got economic difficulties, and essentially here, you seem to me to be blaming external forces for the state of your economy. There's a belief out there that
fuerzas externas para la situación económica mala que estamos enfrentando.
there's a belief out there that
Una creencia
that the United States is applying that pressure because they want your oil reserves.
que es una creencia que los Estados Unidos están aplicando esa presión porque quieren al petróleo.
Okay. Now, having said that, the U.S. has made it clear, even though one of their officials has stated that yes, the issue in Venezuela is oil. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. But there are also allegations. Let me see here. They are claiming people like Human Rights Watch, for example, they are claiming torture, electric shock, asphyxiation, sexual assault.
Está hablando de no solo derechos humanitarios, sino que la tortura, el shock eléctrico, asfixiación.
This happening in Venezuela.
Yeah, so
This is about the Human Rights Watch.
Yeah.
Yes, José Miguel Vivanco, right?
Is this Jose Miguel?
Vivanco. The Human Rights Watch.
From Human Rights Watch.
Yeah, I know this guy. I know.
So you're saying those allegations are false?
Eso es falso.
No. No es que sea falso. No es falso, sino que él no tiene credibilidad.
He's saying that he's not credible.
They're not credible.
No tiene credibilidad. Verdades, medias verdades y medias mentiras. Pero no es una persona con reputación para hablar de Venezuela.
This is not a person with a reputation to talk about Venezuela.
Venezuela, en cuanto al tema del humanitario,
In terms of the humanitarian
¿verdad?
topic.
¿Verdad?
Yeah.
Ok. Las ayudas humanitarias tienen unos protocolos que lo garantizan Naciones Unidas y la Cruz Roja.
Their human aid has a certain protocol that UN establishes.
Y la Cruz Roja.
And the Red Cross as well.
Y usted no puede politizar una ayuda humanitaria.
You cannot make humanitarian aid political.
Además que tiene que ser con el consentimiento del Estado, del país.
And it also has to be with the consent of the country.
Usted no puede forzar una ayuda humanitaria,
You cannot force human aid.
como intentaron hacer el pasado sábado
Like they tried to
desde
do
Colombia.
today from Colombia.
Y lo que no sabe la gente,
And what people do not know,
¿qué contenía la ayuda humanitaria?
what this human aid contained.
Las dos primeras gandolas
The first two
trucks
yeah,
tenían material de guerra.
had war material.
War material.
Clavos, alambres, máscaras antigases,
Gas masks,
material para preparar bombas.
material to prepare bombs.
Eso es público, notorio y comunicacional. Están los videos.
Those videos exist. It's public.
That is public.
Sí, están en las imágenes. Están las imágenes.
The images are there.
Aparte que ellos la quemaron.
And they burnt it.
Las,
the trucks.
las dos gandolas fueron quemadas en territorio colombiano, no en territorio venezolano.
The 2 trucks were in Colombian territory, not in Venezuelan territory.
¿Ustedes no saben que Colombia es un país ocupado militarmente por los Estados Unidos?
Do you not know that Colombia is a country occupied militarily by the United States?
¿Usted no sabe que Colombia los Estados Unidos tienen 8 bases militares en Colombia?
Do you know that the United States has 8 military bases in Colombia?
Por eso es que se utilizó Colombia.
And that is why they used Colombia.
La gente no conoce que hay detrás de todo, que había detrás de la ayuda, de la falsa ayuda humanitaria.
People do not know what was behind this false human aid.
El costo de la ayuda humanitaria era de $20 millones.
The cost of the human aid was about $20 million.
Que ellos recogieron. ¿Y por qué no me da los 30.000 millones que me tiene?
¿Cómo?
O sea, ellos nos querían dar $20 millones. Los Estados Unidos con la ayuda humanitaria.
Yeah. They wanted to give 20 million. The United States wanted to give $20 million of human aid.
Pero nos está robando $30.000 millones.
But they are robbing $30 million.
Okay, let's stick with the human aid for just a minute here. You're suggesting that some of the humanitarian aid that they're trying to get into Venezuela is actually arms, military stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There has been a suggestion made just this weekend in one of our local editorials that perhaps this humanitarian aid should be delivered or managed, if you will, by the United Nations. First of all, do you acknowledge the need for humanitarian aid?
Mm-hmm.
And 2, would you be willing to allow the United Nations to see about getting that aid into Venezuela?
¿Reconoces la necesidad para ayuda humanitaria, primero? Y 2, permite a los Naciones Unidas a dar esa ayuda humanitaria.
Primero que nada, hay que hacer unas aclaratorias pertinentes.
First and foremost, I have to make a declaration.
O sea, repito, Venezuela no necesita ayuda humanitaria.
I repeat, Venezuela does not need humanitarian aid.
Nosotros tenemos el dinero para comprar los alimentos
We have the money
y las
to
medicinas.
buy food and medicine.
No. El problema es que si usted vende medicinas,
The problem is if you sell medicine,
pero como yo estoy sancionado por los Estados Unidos,
but if I'm sanctioned by the United States,
si usted me vende las medicinas, usted se mete en un problema con los Estados Unidos.
if you sell me the medicine, you find yourself in problems with the United States.
Nosotros tenemos el dinero para comprar todo,
We have the money to buy everything,
pero no podemos comprarlo porque el que se atreva a vender medicinas y alimentos a Venezuela, lo sancionan los Estados Unidos.
but we cannot buy it because if someone dares to sell us medicine or food, they will be sanctioned by the United States.
La semana pasada llegó un avión cargado de medicinas
Last week, a plane arrived full of medicine
de Rusia
from Russia
que le compramos a Rusia
that we bought from Russia
bajo la protección de la Organización Mundial de la Salud
under the protection of the World Health Organization
y las Naciones Unidas.
and the United Nations.
Ellos hicieron los trámites para que pudiera ingresar la medicina a Venezuela.
They made the deals for the medicine to be able to come into Venezuela.
Esa es la verdad. Venezuela tiene el dinero para comprar sus propias medicinas y los propios alimentos.
That is the truth. Venezuela has the money to buy their own medicine and food,
Pero ellos no tienen bloqueado por todos lados.
but they have us blocked on every side.
Esa es la verdad. Y le voy a poner otro ejemplo.
And I'm going to give you another example.
En el año 2005,
In 2005,
cuando el huracán Katrina
when
en Luisiana,
Hurricane Katrina occurred,
¿usted se recuerda?
do you remember Hurricane Katrina?
Venezuela, el presidente Chávez,
President Chavez
quiso enviar ayuda humanitaria a Katrina.
wanted to send humanitarian aid for the people suffering because of Hurricane Katrina.
Y el presidente George Bush dijo que no.
And President
No la aceptó.
And President George Bush said no, he did not accept it.
¿Usted no sabía eso?
Did you not know that?
¿Usted no sabía que nuestra empresa Citgo
Did you not know that Signal, our business,
le dio todo la gasolina a todos los estados de Luisiana gratis después del huracán Katrina?
gave gas to
Gasolina.
gasolina to all gas to all of the places in Louisiana after Hurricane Katrina.
Yes, I knew about that.
For free.
Ajá. ¿Usted sabía que yo vivía en New Orleans por 7 años?
I lived in New Orleans for 5 years.
¿Usted sabía que después del huracán Katrina, el gobierno de los Estados Unidos prefirió derrumbar 6,000 casas públicas?
Did you know that after Hurricane Katrina, the government preferred to break down 6 million?
6,000 casas.
6,000, sorry, public houses.
Y en vez de dárselo a la gente pobre para que se metiera allí a vivir,
Instead of giving it to the poor people so that they can live.
no se la dieron porque no iban a pagar las casas,
They
los
did not give it
apartamentos.
to them because they were not going to pay. They were not going to be able to pay for the houses.
¿Y por qué ellos no aceptaron la ayuda humanitaria que envió Venezuela, que quería enviar Venezuela
And why didn't they
a nuestros
accept
hermanos
the
en?
humanitarian aid that Venezuela sent?
Entonces, no puede haber doble moral, doble rasero.
You can't have a double standard.
Esa es la realidad.
That is the reality.
Usted sabía que nosotros siempre apoyamos al pueblo de los Estados Unidos en ciudades como Boston,
That we always support the people of the
Nueva York,
United States in places like Boston,
Minneapolis en Minnesota,
Minneapolis, and
a las comunidades indígenas de los Estados Unidos.
the indigenous
Le,
community in the United States.
le damos heating oil para el calentamiento de su vivienda,
We gave them heating oil to warm their houses,
gratis.
and that was for free.
Hasta en el Bronx, que tenemos un programa que se llama Petro Bronx.
Even in the Bronx, we have a program called P.R.O. Bronx.
Eso somos nosotros.
That is us.
Esa es la realidad.
That is the reality.
Ahora, ¿qué es lo que pasa ahora en Venezuela?
So what is happening now in Venezuela?
El tema es que ellos nos bloquearon nuestras cuentas,
So they have blocked our accounts.
nos sancionaron
They have sanctioned us,
y bajo ese pretexto
and under that pretext,
dice que Venezuela tiene una crisis humanitaria.
they say that Venezuela is in a crisis, has a humanitarian crisis.
Mr. George, la diferencia de ahora
The difference now,
y antes
the difference between now and before,
es que los Estados Unidos, como dice nuestro canciller,
is that the United States,
como dice nuestro
as
canciller,
the foreign ministry says,
no están a la cola de los golpes de Estado, no están atrás,
they are not behind the coups.
sino están adelante.
They are in front of it.
Y la oposición venezolana de
And
mi
the
país,
Venezuelan opposition in my country,
sus voceros están en Washington.
their mouthpieces are in Washington.
George Bush, Donald Trump,
Donald Trump,
John Bolton,
John Bolton,
John Pompeo,
Pompeo,
Abraham Elliot,
Abraham Elliott,
y Marco Rubio.
and Marco Rubio.
Ellos son los dirigentes, ellos son los líderes de la oposición venezolana.
They are the leaders of the Venezuelan opposition.
Esa es la verdad.
That is the truth.
Ambassador, let me ask you this. It was very evident in one of the editorials I read this morning on the program.
Mucha evidencia.
Que fue muy evidente en un artículo que leo esta
Ajá.
mañana.
That the Caribbean, by and large, has close ties with Venezuela.
Que el Caribe, por lo general, tiene una relación con
Ujú.
Venezuela.
In recent times, ministers of government in CARICOM have called for a hands-off approach.
Recientemente, ministros de los países del Caribe han llamado por dejar a Venezuela.
Is there anything more you would like to see the Caribbean do in reciprocation for what Venezuela has done for CARICOM?
¿Qué más quiere? ¿Hay otras cosas que le gustaría ver que el Caribe haga en reciprocación por lo que ha hecho Venezuela?
Bueno, primero saludamos la declaración de CARICOM. CARICOM llama por la no interferencia en los asuntos internos de Venezuela, una posición digna, y que los venezolanos arreglemos nuestros propios problemas.
So, CARICOM calls for Venezuela to fix their own issues.
¿Sí? Yeah. Eso lo saludamos, una posición digna de CARICOM.
That is a dignified position for
y del respeto a la Carta de Naciones Unidas
and of respect for the Charter of the United
y al derecho internacional,
and human rights.
Que dice la no interferencia en los asuntos internos de cada miembro de su país. Eso es perfecto. Por otro lado,
On the other side,
el CARICOM es parte del mecanismo de Montevideo,
CARICOM is part of the mechanism of Montevideo,
que son México
that is Mexico,
y Uruguay y el CARICOM,
Uruguay and CARICOM,
que se prestaron para facilitar, se pusieron a la orden para facilitar un encuentro donde podamos nosotros los venezolanos encontrar los caminos para resolver nuestras diferencias políticas.
It's a system that was put in place to facilitate a meeting place where we can dialogue to find a resolution.
Eso es lo mejor que puede hacer. O sea, ser facilitadores para el encuentro, para la discusión y buscar puntos de encuentro y de entendimiento
points of understanding
entre la oposición y el gobierno.
between the opposition and the government.
Pero uno de los grandes problemas
But one of the biggest problems
que tiene la oposición nuestra
that our opposition has
es que ellos reciben las órdenes desde Washington.
is that they receive their orders from Washington.
Es público, notorio y comunicacional.
It is public, notorious, and communicational.
Por ejemplo, este detalle,
For example, this detail,
que el diputado que se autoproclamó
that the deputy state self-proclaimed
que no le eligió a nadie para ser presidente,
that he was not elected by anyone to be president.
en la gira que está haciendo ahora desde Colombia, fue a Brasil, a Paraguay, a Argentina, ahora está a Ecuador.
He's doing a tour now. He's gone to Brazil, Uruguay, Paraguay, Ecuador.
Está acompañado con la subsecretaria para el hemisférico de los Estados Unidos.
And he is accompanied by the secretary in the United States.
Ambassador,
¿Es evidente?
we're starting to run out of time here, but there are a couple of things I want to try and understand here. Notwithstanding the allegations, even from the international community, that there is interference in your internal affairs.
Mm-hmm.
A pesar de las alegaciones que hay injerencia,
Right? And there are calls for the
Mhm.
United States to back off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Would your government be willing to address some of the very public concerns that are out there about wrongdoing in Venezuela? Let's start with the detention of the media this past week. Let's start talking torture, electric shock, and stuff like that. Would you be willing to take any steps that show, hey, listen, I've heard you, I'm addressing your concerns?
Por todas esas alegaciones de como la detención de la gente de la prensa,
Mhm.
la tortura, el choque eléctrico, su gobierno va a tomar pasos para como enfrentar esas alegaciones, a decir que yo te escucho y Eso es lo que vamos a hacer.
Bueno, primero que nada, en Venezuela no hay periodistas detenidos.
In Venezuela, there are no journalists, there are no detained journalists.
Eso fue un solo periodista de Univision que vino a los Estados Unidos.
That was one journalist from Univision who came from the United States.
Que quiso hacerle una provocación al presidente, a faltarle respeto al presidente.
That wanted to provoke or not have respect for the president.
Y se le invitó a que se fuera del país, sencillamente.
And they invited him to leave the country.
Si usted revisa las últimas semanas,
If you look back at the last week,
el presidente le ha concebido entrevistas a periodistas de CBS de Estados Unidos, a muchísimos periodistas.
the president has accepted interviews from many journalists.
En tono respetuoso. Tono respetuoso.
All respectful.
Ese mismo periodista es el mismo periodista que el mismo Donald Trump lo mandó a sacar de la Casa Blanca.
¿Cómo?
Es el mismo periodista que Donald Trump lo sacó de la Casa Blanca hace 2 años atrás.
This is the same journalist that Donald Trump kicked out of the White House some years ago.
Entonces,
it's clearly understood that this gentleman has a reputation. So,
exacto. Entonces cada quien se inventa una historia
Everyone invents a story
acerca de la tortura.
about torture.
Las fuerzas públicas, las fuerzas de seguridad pública de Venezuela
The security forces in Venezuela
manejan unos protocolos
have a particular protocol
que son para el uso proporcionado y diferenciado de la fuerza.
It is for the
Uso
for the use
proporcionado y diferenciado de la fuerza.
the proportioned use
And diferenciado
and differential
de la fuerza.
use of force.
Van con bombas lacrimógenas.
They go with tear gas.
O sea, no hay balas ni nada de ese tipo de cosas.
There are no handcuffs or anything like that, or
Pero,
bullets.
pero del lado de los manifestantes,
But then on the side of the manifestation,
sí van fuertemente armados.
they are strongly armed,
Y crean un caos,
and they create chaos.
crean un caos. ¿Para qué? Para la prensa, para los medios.
For the press.
Muchas veces en las manifestaciones en Venezuela,
Many times in the manifestations in Venezuela,
usted ve más periodistas
you see more journalists
que manifestantes.
than protesters.
Esa es la verdad. Entonces, y en el caso de la Constitución, porque aquí hay una cosa que a mí me gustaría aclarar,
And in the case of the Constitution, there's something I want to clarify.
clarificar. El presidente Nicolás Maduro
President Nicolas Maduro
fue presidente encargado,
was the president in charge
después de la muerte del presidente Chávez.
after the death of President Chavez.
Y él, después de la muerte del presidente, antes de los 30 días, él llamó a las elecciones.
And after 30 days of the death of Chavez, he called for elections.
De tal manera que es una mentira que, en el supuesto negado,
So it is a lie, supposedly denied,
el presidente de la Asamblea Nacional
that the president of the National Assembly
puede ser presidente interino o encargado de Venezuela.
can be the interim president in charge of
La
Venezuela.
figura del presidente interino no existe en esta Constitución.
The figure of an interim president does not exist in the Constitution.
A la falta del presidente, a la falta de un presidente, por las causas establecidas en esta Constitución,
If there's no president, because of certain elements laid out in the Constitution,
el suplente es el vicepresidente,
the person who takes over is the vice president,
que está llamado a culminar el mandato
that is called to finish the mandate
o, para los efectos, convocar elecciones.
or call elections.
¿Y cuál es la tragedia de la oposición?
And what is the trajectory of the
Esta Constitución, en el artículo, si no me equivoco, 72, 72, si no me equivoco, dice: todos los cargos de elección popular están sometidos a revocatorio a la mitad del mandato.
Article 72 of the Constitution says all posts filled by popular vote are revocable.
Ok. ¿Por qué la oposición, Mr. Grant, 2 años atrás?
Jorge,
Mr. George. Ok. Mr. Jorge. ¿Por qué la oposición hace 2 años y medio atrás
Why did the opposition 2.5 years ago
no llamó a un revocatorio del mandato del presidente Nicolás Maduro?
why did they not revoke the mandate of President Nicolás Maduro?
Esto lo establece. Está clarito.
This is established, it's clear.
Todo en Venezuela, todos los cargos de elección popular
In Venezuela, all of the charges of the popular election
pueden ser sometidos a revocarle el mandato a la mitad de su periodo. ¿Correcto? Y el otro elemento, el artículo 5 de esta Constitución dice que la soberanía reside intransferiblemente en el pueblo y la ejerce, una de las formas es a través del voto. Eso quiere decir que nosotros no aceptamos
Article 5 says that sovereignty resides untransferable in the people who exercise it directly in the manner provided in this Constitution and in the law, and indirectly by suffrage through the organs of the public powers. So that means
O sea que nosotros no podemos aceptar ni que el gobierno de los Estados Unidos,
that we cannot accept, nor can the government of the United States,
ni que el gobierno de Canadá,
nor Canada,
o el gobierno de Londres, o el grupo de Lima, digan quién es el presidente de Venezuela.
they cannot say who the president of Venezuela is.
Porque está violando esta Constitución, nuestra soberanía.
Because it's not written in the Constitution.
Ambassador, another thought just came to mind. How big is your military?
¿Cuán grande es el ejército
¿Qué?
de Venezuela?
¿Qué japa?
El tamaño del ejército.
Bueno, hay alrededor de casi 300,000.
Almost 30,000.
Y tenemos alrededor de casi 2 millones de milicianos.
And 2 million militias.
De milicianos.
Recently, we've been hearing about a number of defections in Venezuela. People are leaving the military.
Estuvimos escuchando sobre personas saliendo de...
Sí, es correcto.
Are you concerned that number may escalate?
¿Estás preocupado?
No.
Este número
No,
puede aumentar.
son cientos. No, para nada.
No,
nada.
for nothing.
Mire, hay una cosa que nosotros tenemos que explicarle y que la gente desconoce.
There's something that we have to explain that people do not know.
La primera vez que el ejército de Venezuela salió de las fronteras, fuera del país,
The first time that the Venezuelan army went out on the border, out of the country,
fue para darle libertad a 5 países.
was to free five countries.
Colombia, Ecuador, Perú, Bolivia
Colombia,
y Panamá.
Peru, Bolivia, and Panama.
Tienen libertad gracias al ejército de Venezuela.
They are free thanks to the Venezuelan army.
Nosotros liberamos esos países, el ejército bolivariano.
The Bolivarian army.
Y nunca nos quedamos ocupamos tierra, ni le quitamos territorio a esos países,
And we never occupied their land or take away their land.
ni nos trajimos para Venezuela sus riquezas.
Nor did we take their riches and bring it to Venezuela.
Esa es la verdad.
That is the truth.
Somos un ejército formado para la paz y para la libertad.
We're an army formed for freedom and peace.
Ambassador, let me say thank you very much, sir. Thank you. It's the first time that you and I have met.
Es la primera vez que hemos conocido.
¿Cómo?
Es la primera vez que hemos conocido.
Ah, sí, thank you.
Yeah.
Sí. Ajá.
And I expect that we're going to meet fairly often in the coming weeks and months. I hope we do. Let me ask you this last question, sir. Do you expect that there will be an invasion by the United States?
Nosotros estamos preparados para todo.
We are prepared for anything.
Eso no es una opción que nosotros estamos preparados para la paz y sobre todo para defender la integridad territorial de nuestra patria.
We are prepared for peace, but above all, to defend the sovereignty of our country and the integrity of our country.
Okay. But I'm assuming, sir, that you would be willing to admit that things have not been perfect in the administration of affairs in Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
Would you admit that, sir?
Que puedes admitir que las cosas no han sido.
Bueno,
is he willing to admit that Venezuela has brought some of this upon itself?
Que Venezuela causó algo de eso.
Mire, una de las cosas que nosotros, y lo ha reconocido el propio presidente Nicolás Maduro,
One of the things that even the
que le ha hecho mucho daño a la revolución bolivariana, que le ha hecho mucho daño a la revolución bolivariana,
that has done a lot of damage to the Bolivian revolution,
es la corrupción.
is corruption.
Yeah.
Que funcionarios que se le dio la confianza
That people in places of power who were given power,
e hicieron todo lo contrario.
they did everything on the contrary.
Lo otro es la burocracia,
The other thing is bureaucracy,
que también le ha hecho un tremendo daño a la revolución bolivariana y al gobierno como tal.
that has also caused a lot of damage
Y
on the revolution and the government.
esos son las tareas pendientes
Those are pending tasks
que nosotros tenemos que ir superando y ir corrigiendo
that we have to
al seno del gobierno.
try to overcome and correct.
Ambassador, forgive me, but the reason why I'm sitting here laughing, the issues that you just raised, corruption and what's the other one? Bureaucracy. Ambassador, you're not alone. We have it here.
Mire, y para finalizar,
To end,
nosotros en Venezuela, vuelvo y le repito, creemos en la paz.
in Venezuela, we believe in peace. I want to repeat that.
Ahorita están conmemorando carnavales en Venezuela, empezó el carnaval.
Right now, Carnival has begun in Venezuela
Hasta el martes.
until Tuesday.
Usted puede ver las imágenes, la gente disfrutando tranquila en la playa.
People having fun.
No estamos en guerra,
We're not in war.
no nos estamos comiendo ni nada. Venezuela es un país
We're not
muy
not
tranquilo.
eating. Venezuela is a very tranquil country.
Puede meterse en cualquiera, creo que en Twitter, y va a ver muchas imágenes de la gente en la playa
You can go on
disfrutando y
Twitter,
tranquila.
see people at the beach,
Eso es lo que queremos
having
nosotros.
fun.
Queremos
calm.
paz y tranquilidad para trabajar
That is what we want in Venezuela.
y para
Peace
recuperar
and tranquility to work, to
y para
recuperate
y recuperar nuestra economía.
and to recuperate our economy.
Okay, Ambassador, I got to go.
Yeah, okay.
But one last time, Ambassador.
Uh-huh.
Notwithstanding the fact that there are a lot of people in the international community who are calling for hands off on Venezuela.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I also believe that it is important,
Mm-hmm.
if you want what you said here today to be credible, Venezuela needs to demonstrate goodwill.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Ambassador, just one step that Venezuela would be willing to take to show the world goodwill. Just one.
Un paso. ¿Cuál es un paso que Venezuela puede tomar para mostrar al mundo?
Bueno,
voluntad?
que nos eliminen las sanciones y el bloqueo económico de nuestro dinero.
Un paso de Venezuela.
¿Ah?
Un paso de Venezuela que Venezuela va a tomar.
El paso que va a tomar. Mira, Venezuela va a transitar por los caminos democráticos siempre.
Venezuela will always go
y los caminos
through the
constitucionales.
to the democratic and constitutional steps.
Y nosotros solamente le pedimos, bueno, al mundo que nos apoye, que se solidarice y que nos eliminen las sanciones y el bloqueo económico para que Venezuela pueda recuperarse económicamente y resolver nuestros propios problemas y resolver todas las situaciones como siempre las hemos resuelto.
And we just ask the world for its solidarity and for our sanctions to be eliminated so that we can go about recuperating our economy.
Bottom line, sanctions.
Bottom line, sanctions.
Exactly.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you.
Pleasure meeting you, sir.
I hope we'll be coming again.
Okay.
We'll come back again.
Okay.
All right?
And thank you very much, Dana, for helping me to understand. Appreciate it. Okay, good job. Okay, folks, I've been talking with Ambassador of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, and his name, my dear friends, is Jorge Guerrero Veloz. Let's take a little break, and we'll come back and wrap it up.
With free island-wide delivery, Hubbard's Building Supplies and Lumber Departments continue to provide the best quality lumber, steel, tiles, plumbing materials, electrical and general hardware supplies at competitive prices. We continually consult with builders, homeowners and contractors to improve product range and services. Enjoy discounts where applicable, including the use of credit and debit cards. At Hubbard's Building Supplies, Grandance and Lumber Department Caranage, we offer quality service, affordable prices, giving you the convenient, reliable, free island-wide delivery. Call 440-2087 for all your home improvement and building solutions.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank. And there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Hey, Lynn.
Hey, neighbor.
Here's the bill I asked you to pay for me.
How did you get your electricity bill to be so low?
For one, we size our transformers just for what we need. And we unplug transformers, chargers, and other devices when they're not in use. We also replaced our light bulbs with LEDs.
They burn less energy, right?
Much less. I even replaced the seal on my refrigerator door to keep the cold air in.
And Grenlec is always advising us not to open the fridge too often.
That's right. And my family washes and irons in bulk.
With fuel prices changing all the time, how do you know if it is working?
We pay attention to the usage history table. Over time, our average usage has decreased.
So while Grenada can't control fuel prices, I can conserve energy and save money.
Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
Alrighty, folks, time to pull the curtain down on this week's edition of Sundays with George Grant. Thank you very much, those of you around the world who've been with us this morning. Parting word, as we do every Sunday. This one comes to you from the book of Matthew, chapter 10, verses 26, 27, and 28. So do not be afraid of them, for as there is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. What I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispered in your ear, proclaim from the roofs. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather, be afraid of the one who can destroy both body and soul in hell. Matthew 10, 26 to 28. Pilgrims, Georgie Porgy's going to take off now, go try to feed his face. I wonder if Margaret has anything on the menu today. She's in New York, I'm here. Has it started snowing, Max? Don't know. Here's an invitation to join me tomorrow morning and every weekday morning right here on Grenada Broadcast for the next edition of Good Day, Grenada. God bless you, my dear friends.